seats. Headlines fly, but we read past the tweets. If it's news, if it's now, Steve breaks it down. Cause the truth hits different when the facts come out.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's 8 o'clock Eastern Time, February the 3rd. It's a Tuesday. Thank you for being here. We know you got lots of choices to make every day. And we are so grateful that you choose to spend a little time with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to the 2.0. If you don't follow us here, please consider doing so. Please, we need your help today since we are on our backup. Sally lost our appeal yesterday, misinformation of all things. But if you guys wouldn't mind really helping us share this live, tapping is clapping, liking is loving, sharing is caring. Please consider contributing to the gifting goal today. It'll be really, really important that we really push and share the live and tap like crazy because, you know, this is not our normal home. And we want people to be able to participate in our conversations. We are crowdfunded here. You want to support the channel, you know how to do that. Please head on over to the link that's in the link tree that's in my bio. You'll find the link to our Discord there. Please consider joining our community. It's free. We just ask you to go through the verification steps. If you have a difficult time with that, you can reach out to one of our moderators or just copy the link, post it in a browser, and then that will open up into Discord, assuming you have the device installed on your phone. While you're in the link tree, check out the Facts merch store. That's Facts HQ or Factsstillmatter.site. There's some items that have been specifically designed to support the Minneapolis community. Any and all proceeds from the sales of those shirts go directly to that cause. It's canmn.org. It's the Minneapolis Community Action Network. We will run that promotion through the end of this week, and then all proceeds will be sent on behalf of you all directly to that particular organization. And I think last check we were over like $125, almost $150 so far. So that's great. So again, that's an example of doing something. Also, while you're in the Discord, please check out all the links there. There's all kinds of programs that you can get involved. There's information about Indivisible and all sorts of things related to doing something. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. All right. So I think it's obvious that we love the TikTok shop, by the way. I think it's obvious that there is some suppression going on, so we have to be very careful about certain things that we talk about. I think that goes without saying. So today, what I want to talk about is I'm not sure this is getting covered enough, and it will lead into our what about Biden conversation, because the right is trying to take up a new tactic. They are trying to basically say, it's no big deal. This entire release of these files clears the president. So I have this new theory that he's got people in his ear. Well, it's not necessarily new, but I think it's just more and more obvious that people are just telling him things to make him feel better, right? To say, sir, you've been absolved. Nothing to see here. These files prove nothing. And I literally watch people in right-wing spaces when the information that comes out from the files last week, it just doubles, triples, quadruples down the amount of times that he's mentioned. He's mentioned more than anybody. And they're saying that there's nothing in here. Once again, they won't believe any of it because it doesn't matter. So we're not going to talk about the specifics only because the minds that need to be changed are so lost in the sauce, as they say, so to speak. But what I want to remind folks of is to how deep this goes, the financial ties. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal have both done some amazing reporting on this and then all kinds of other connections to banks and financial institutions and royal family members, funding programs. And that was part of don't forget, the job that people don't realize that one of the job that J.E. had is that he was a financier. So he worked with big money. So obviously there's lots of people connected to this. And don't forget, part of the story is that he has tapes on everyone. So that's what I want to talk about today. And because this continues to come up, the what about Biden, we talk about Trump's corruption, I did a little bit of research. Did a little bit of research on the claims made against the Biden family and what about Biden and Hunter. And also to kind of a bit of revisionist history, because I think it's necessary, because folks are talking about this again as well. The court case in New York. People on the right claiming that the jury wasn't given instructions to rule unanimously, that this crime had never been charged before. Well, I did some work, and we'll talk about that today too. So again, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you all very, very much. Before we get too down into this, I want to thank my friend Jen, because she sent me this morning, and talk about poetic justice. There has been a subreddit community created by current ICE employees complaining that they haven't been paid. So the reporting on this comes from the International Business Times. ICE employees vent on Reddit saying they're not getting paid and still no insurance despite promises. Everybody say it with me. Poor little schmotzies. Staff claims promised bonuses and insurance have failed to materialize, with some reporting they cannot afford medical care for their sick kids. Here's the thing about this. Because of who we are as individuals, I want them to have insurance. I want everybody to have insurance. Everybody. See the fundamental difference? We all want people to have insurance. We don't want anybody, no matter what you're doing, we want people to have insurance. Okay? U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is facing an unusual wave of internal backlash after employees began publicly accusing the agency of failing to pay salaries, and activate health insurance weeks after recruitment. Despite a historic recruitment drive that added 12,000 agents in recently, the agency's administrative backbone appears to be buckling, with employees desperate enough to turn to the Reddit to detail their struggles. In raw, unfiltered Reddit posts now spreading beyond law enforcement circles, ICE officers describe going a month or more without a paycheck, struggling to secure medical coverage for sick children, and watching promised bonuses quietly stall. As immigration enforcement intensifies nationally, critics argue the complaints raise uncomfortable questions about how an agency tasked with enforcing the law is allegedly struggling to meet its most basic obligations to its own workforce. One officer reported being unable to cover medical costs for a sick child due to a coverage gap, while others claim five-figure signing bonuses have not materialized. This benefits breakdown comes at a critical time as the agency ramps up enforcement activity, leaving frontline staff questioning the government's ability to manage the very workforce it spent millions to recruit. So why would you post this publicly? But here's some of the posts that they made on Reddit. This from an ICE, look how strange looking ICE account. I've been here for about 2 months, still waiting for my health insurance. Is anyone having that issue as well? I chose Blue Cross Blue Shield Basic. I was told that they don't know how long it will take, and I have a sick daughter with no insurance. Here's another one. Don't expect much. It's like $6,000 after taxes, and they put it in the regular paycheck, so you end up paying about $4 to $5 in taxes on one check. Here's another one. I didn't even get paid yet for the base check. Here's another one. Man, Monday is 4 weeks since I started, and I haven't been paid yet. So yeah, there's that. What began as a routine onboarding complaints has now snowballed into a viral reckoning about how a major U.S. federal agency manages its workforce while aggressively expanding enforcement operations. As screenshots circulate across social platforms, critics argue the issue is no longer bureaucratic, but institutional dysfunction, raising uncomfortable questions about morale, accountability, and the human cost of Americans' immigration enforcement. The unofficial private subreddit serves as a forum for ICE enforcement removal operations employees to share experiences and advice. Although not officially affiliated with the agency, the forum attracts hundreds of officers who discuss career concerns and operational challenges. One post shared by a new employee explained that despite being on the job for 2 months, they still had no health insurance and were struggling to cover medical costs for a sick kid. Other posts complained about their confusion about their bonus pay schedule. One officer noted the breakdown in taxes. Another user lamented, Monday is 4 weeks since I started and I haven't been paid yet, emphasizing the delayed payments were not an isolated case. Prospective ICE applicants are recruited with the promise of competitive federal salaries and a comprehensive benefits package. Salaries vary by role, by experience, but generally follow the federal schedule guidelines, with entry-level deportations officers in the $51,000 to $84,000 range, and opportunities to rise significantly with seniority and local adjustments. And we know that there was a $42,000 bonus that was slotted, $850 million total. Can you fucking believe that shit? Yeah, we can. So bad that this subreddit community was created, drawing in ICE officers, and they're all complaining about the same thing. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Are we going to investigate that? Are we going to hold people accountable? Like, seriously, are we going Are we going to investigate? I'd like to know, because if that's the subreddit name it's called, hang on. It's called R. Here, what I'll do is I will copy the link. I will put it in the Discord in our amazing mod team. Hearts in the chat for the mods, please. And I'll have them post it in the chat so you guys can see it. Crazy, right? Yeah, exactly. Twilight, good call. Where's Nick Shirley? How come Nick Shirley's not going to investigate this? Shouldn't he be on the job? Shouldn't he really be out there, running this down because of all this missing money? If the money was allocated, and don't forget, that kind of interesting that sort of now segues us into the conversation about the government shutdown, right? Because the government is technically shut down. The Senate Dems and Senate Republicans negotiated funding other programs, peeling out DHS, and then putting a 2-week time limit on it, actually less than 2 weeks now because it goes to the 13th of February. So the ball now is in the House's court. And the House has no one to blame. So currently, the government being shut down is absolutely 100% on Republicans. There is no denying that. So what's going to happen, because Mr. Menifee won that Texas House seat, it's 218 to 214, which means House Republicans can lose but one vote. Don't forget, one more than half. So they lose one, it's 217, 215. You lose another, it's 216, 216. And unlike the Senate, there is no tiebreaker. If you don't have the majority, legislation doesn't move anywhere. Is Thomas Massey going to be a thorn in the side? I don't know. He might say this is leverage. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But isn't it interesting, right? They're asking for funding for ICE. And does this change with this reporting? I don't know, maybe. But they're not paying their employees. They've recruited people. They're not paying them. Weird, right? So weird. Speaking of the House, we now know that the Clintons have agreed to testify, which I think completely just blows the entire narrative up for James Comer and his oversight committee. So they're going to come and talk. I don't know exactly if it's going to be public, if it's going to be behind closed doors. That I don't know. They might still be negotiating that. But the House was supposed to rule on contempt charges. Now, they likely can't do that. They might, but then it becomes obvious that it's just political gamesmanship and they're not trying to get down to the core of the issue here, right? And by the way, we are now at day 46 of the Department of Justice breaking federal law by not releasing everything. And we know that to be true because they've told us such. Investigation's over. Don't forget the bullshit lies that Kash Patel is told, that the only people being trafficked were trafficked by Jeffrey, to Jeffrey, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to try to be careful today because I don't want to lose access to the live today. But anyway, so ICE not getting paid, funding bill on the desk of Speaker Johnson today, little bitch boy. By the way, I had a chance to interview a potential candidate to replace Mike Johnson last night, and thank you to Lisa and to Stacy for letting me be part of that. Gentleman running in Mike Johnson's congressional district. You know my love and adoration for my little bitch boy, but Mike Johnson is an exceptional politician. You know, that's not a compliment. That's just who he is. He knows how to play the game. He's good on his feet. He's good to distract. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But I think the great part about it is that Mike Johnson's been running in that district unopposed for a very long time. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that somebody has decided to step up. But speaking of Mike, before we go too much further into our show today, he did the rounds. You know, he's doing the rounds like the good little bitch boy that he is, trying to defend the president. So he brought up a couple things. This is the first part about the situation in Minneapolis. And I just want you to hear the gaslight. When I say that he's a good politician, I don't mean that he's good of heart. I just mean that he knows how to play the gaslight game. He's exceptional at gaslighting. So here he is being interviewed with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press, and this gives you an idea of who he is and why he's a formidable political foe.
Are demanding as a part of this. They want to see changes to DHS, to ICE in the wake of the deaths of those 2 Americans in Minneapolis. The changes they're asking for include an end to roving patrols, no more face masks, mandatory body cameras, and judicial warrant requirements. Given what has been happening on the ground in Minneapolis, Mr. Speaker, do you support any or all of those changes?
Listen, there's been tragedies in Minnesota and in Minneapolis in particular, brought about in large measure by the circumstances on the ground. You have the governor and local officials there, in some cases inciting violence.
Give me a break, bitch boy.
They're encouraging citizens to disrupt the operations of law enforcement, and it sets up a dangerous situation.
But they're calling for peaceful protests.
Well,
yeah, they
are, but they're also saying to resist. They're also saying to, they're doxing the agents of ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And so when you're talking about masking, the reason that ICE agents wear masks is to protect their own identities.
So I want you to keep that point in mind for just a second, because one of the changes that the Democrats and a lot of Republicans in the Senate also agreed to is that we want to make sure body cameras are on. We want to make sure that agents aren't masked anymore. So what Mike Johnson is telling you is that he's not going to be voting in support of that. That's the tell. Now, Mike is slimy, right? And until the president tells him it's okay, he'll just do whatever the president tells him to do. But that's pretty slimy of his. I mean, he's basically telling us out loud.
And protect their own families, and in some circumstances, they've had a price put on their heads effectively by local officials, and that's what's created the dangerous conditions.
But these state and local officials respectfully didn't pull the triggers that left these 2 Americans dead.
Right.
President Trump has even acknowledged that ICE has made mistakes.
That's right.
Do you think within that context, any changes need to be made to ICE and the way it's operating on the ground?
Look, I think President Trump was right to acknowledge that. I think he's operating in good faith. He said he wanted to turn the temperature down. He put Tom Homan in charge there. He was right to deputize him over that situation. He has 40 years experience in Border Patrol and in these issues. So I think that this is going to happen, but we need good faith on both sides. Some of these conditions and requests that they've made are obviously reasonable and should happen, but others are going to require a lot more negotiation.
And you'll support some of those that you say are reasonable?
Yes. In fact, I was in the Oval Office with the president a few days ago when he was on the phone with Leader Schumer, and they agreed, and Tom Homan was on the other line, and they agreed to most of those conditions. But the mask, for example, the additional judicial requirement for a warrant would be a whole other layer of effectively bureaucracy. Remember, the immigration judges have already issued warrants, and that's what the ICE officials are acting upon.
No. Let's be very clear about what he just said there. A deportation order is not a judicial warrant to enter someone's home. Just because the DHS puts out a policy that says, oh, by the way, you can use our administrative warrant to unlawfully violate someone's property. Like don't worry about the 4th Amendment, no big deal. A deportation order is not a judicial warrant to enter someone's house. So that's fucking bullshit. And again, because there are millions of people in our country who don't understand how this shit works. Those same constitutionalists, right? I literally was overhearing a conversation with somebody, and they were claiming that and I forget who the person was. They were great. I want to give them credit, but I couldn't. I don't remember who they are. But this person said, oh, yeah, the DHS policy is what they go by. And the person said, are you saying the DHS policy supersedes the Constitution? And this person came up with some twisted narrative like, yeah, I mean, it was an executive order that allowed for agencies to justify their actions. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, if that's the case, then buckle up, right? If that's the case, under the next administration, the new rules is if you have a MAGA hat, if you have a bumper sticker, if you have a flag flying your house, that the new FBI policy, which overrides the Constitution, gives federal law enforcement officers the ability to break down your door, drag you across your living room, take out your tires of your vehicle because you're considered a threat. If that's the game you want to play, then buckle the fuck up. That's all I can say. But anywho, that's Mike Johnson, bitch boy, gaslighting. So listen, I don't know what's going to happen in the House this week. You know, a couple people's vote to watch. It's only going to take two, right? So Don Bacon and Thomas Massey. I don't know what they're going to, I don't know how they're going to vote. It seems like there is an appetite from most of the Republicans in the House to try to pass this. Now, I want to say this out loud for our friends in the back, right? The government shutdown right now is entirely on Republicans. The Democrats have already agreed to a partial funding as long as within the next 13 days, we solve some of these things. And guess what? Republicans in the Senate agreed. Masks can't be worn. You got to have your body camera on, and you got to have a judicial warrant. Those are the things that have been negotiated and agreed on by both Democrats and Republicans. So if the government remains shut down, it is entirely on Republicans. Just so you all know that. You're going to try to blame somebody, but maths are hard. See, there's 435 members when the House is full. There are still currently 3 open seats. Okay, right now the math is 218 Republicans, 214 Democrats. So if one Republican votes against this, then the number is 217, 215. Okay? So then the next vote would be 216 to 216, and the legislation fails. Partly now because we just get an announcement from the Trump administration that the Bureau of Labor stats regarding unemployment and inflation are not going to be released because the government shut down. Now, I find it interesting that throughout our history, information like this has always been made public, even during shutdowns. So question to our friends on the right who believe that this administration is the most transparent ever. It's the most transparent ever. Why is this the second time now that those numbers aren't going to be released? And we know from the last time when they released them, I forget what the number was, but like 75% of the normal data points that are captured. Don't quote me on that. There was many. Numerous data points that they usually use to calculate the numbers were missing to try to make the number work. Like when you know you're about 25 pounds overweight and you stand on the scale with 1 foot and you kind of lean over and say, hey, I've lost 29 pounds. Yeah, good luck with that. So no, we're not gonna get the normal timing of our Bureau of Labor Statistics release. Is that what it was? Is that true, Dano? It's like 3.5 data points in there. 2 out of 10. Okay, so there you go. So if you're the most transparent administration ever, then what would be the concern? So then we're going to talk about, again, as I mentioned, because this is related to the topic of the day, the transparency or lack thereof of the Trump administration and Donald Trump in particular, his financial records, something he's been desperately trying to cover up for years, so much so that he sued the IRS. We're going to talk about that just briefly. I also want to play us a little sound. So Mark Wayne Mullen, let me put it this way. If Mike Johnson wasn't my bitch boy, and he will always be my bitch boy as long as he's in that position. Number 2 in the hierarchy of bitch boys for me would be Mark Wayne Mullen. Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma. Mark Wayne Mullen might possibly be the most ignorant senator to ever serve. I don't think that's a stretch. This guy is full on ignorant. Now, I'm not saying in an insulting way. He's just not really smart at all. Case in point, I'm going to play some sound for you. Of course, he goes to his safe space in Fox News. And I just want you to listen to what he has to say here. Okay, friends, I need your help. Got another restriction. Please tap like crazy. I need you guys to GIF like crazy. I need you to tap like crazy. I need you to comment like crazy. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate y'all. All right, so this is Mark Wayne Mullen. All right, here you go.
Yeah, I would love to stay all focused on Trump's economy, but the Democrats continue to force us to make this an issue. The truth is, I agree with what Lindsay is saying on defunding these sanctuary cities. We should pull out our TSA agents out of their airports and not allow their
Okay, that's the first thing. He wants to pull TSA agents out of airports in blue cities and blue states. Okay, first of all, the three biggest airports in the United States are in Atlanta, blue city, are in Chicago, blue city, blue state, and in New York. So how would that work, Mark Wayne? Due respect to people named Annabelle or Elizabeth Ann, but Mark Wayne, for you to be so alpha and have that, I'm not going to go there. Explain that to me, how that would work. How would we just stop? How would we stop employing TSA agents at airports in our country? That's why I said Mark Wayne is not the brightest bulb in the tree. But here you go. Here it is.
Yeah, I would love to stay all focused on Trump's economy, but the Democrats continue to force us to make this an issue. The truth is, I agree with what Lindsay is saying on defunding these sanctuary cities. We should pull out our TSA agents out of their airports and not allow their airport to be classified as international or even a regional hub. We should pull out all of our aid that we have for the law enforcement, because there's a tremendous federal aid that goes into law enforcement from the federal to the county to the city level. We should completely pull out all funding towards that. And Lindsey Graham's leading that effort. We're happily supporting it, because they're not going to enforce federal law.
No, or get the hint. Where is that? Things are all messed up today. Shit. And I've got a lot I want to share with you guys about the financial connection to this. Everybody, please keep tapping and sharing, please, because tapping is clapping and liking is loving and sharing is caring. Appreciate you. Do I not have that anymore? Hang on a second. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't like to keep you waiting. Although it is a tease, but not that much of one. Hang on one sec. Give me just 1 second. Doesn't matter. I will punt. Point being, there's so much pressure on the administration right now to address the issues they have with their tactics, right? We all agree that we want to address immigration. We all can agree that we have a broken immigration system. I support pathways to citizenship. I want to make it so easier for people to claim citizenship. I support DACA. I don't want to be going after people who've been here who've never committed a crime. We can all agree that hardened criminals should be deported. There's no debate. You're not going to get debate from anybody on the left over that, right? Right now, though, you are getting fractures on the right because people on the right are agreeing with people on the left saying it's about the tactics. It's about what you're doing. It's about wearing masks. It's about lying about administrative warrants. It's about murdering American citizens in American streets and trying to justify it no matter what, the pretzel logic that our people are putting themselves in. That's what we're here talking about. And it seems like there's enough of an appetite, although we'll see. There's enough of an appetite in the Republican caucus to agree, and similarly in the Senate. So we'll see. We're going to get articles of impeachment introduced likely this week against Kristi Noem and potentially Pam Bondi. We're hearing about that. It's almost like an out, right? It's almost like an out for the administration to kind of move her aside. Don't forget the first sign was replacing Greg Bovino with Tom Homan. And the statement from the president is very telling because in the hierarchy, in the structure, Greg Bovino, you've been frozen and we are lost. I'm frozen? Hold on a second. We good? Still frozen? Are we good? Yes? Okay. You're good, not frozen, good. Okay, thank you. All right. Don't know where I was, but my point is that the shakeup of the DHS leadership was the first telltale sign was removing Greg Bovino, replacing him with Tom Homan, and the president's statement was very telling, saying Tom Homan is going to report directly to me. So that's the indicator. Like they are trying to sideline Kristi Noem because of her lies, right? Just because of one lie after another. And you can only run so far and so fast from lies. So that's the biggest issue. So we'll be watching that this week. Long story short, today is the day that Mike Johnson is going to reconvene the House. Do they have a vote? It cleared committee last night, which I would expect because that's partisan. But again, we'll be watching that vote. So keep your eyes on Thomas Massie and Don Bacon in particular. Those two are, if those two votes don't support this, then it doesn't pass. It's that simple. The next step, if it does pass, is there needs to be negotiation between, what is this? There does need to be negotiation between House Republicans and Democrats and House Republicans and Democrats and the White House about what's next for DHS funding. Now that we know that they're already over budget, now that we know that they're not paying their employees, all this kind of shit. So I expect you are going to see changes. The question is how far and how many. Okay, so let's get into some of the things that the president has been saying recently. There was an interesting moment on Air Force One. Goes back to the theory that I think I started with today. Everybody keep tapping, please. Tapping is sharing, liking is loving. And tapping is clapping, liking is loving, and sharing is caring. Thank you. And if you guys can help us get out the FYP, that would be great. Again, this is not our normal home. We'll be here tomorrow and Thursday as well, and then hopefully back on the main come Friday. But anyway, I have this belief set that Stephen Miller, likely, maybe even Susie Wiles, whomever, just tells the narcissist what he wants to hear, okay? Because we all know that his name is in the documents more than anyone's. We know that. We know about their relationship. We know about the lies that have been told. You guys don't need me to remind you. So when he comes out and he says things like this.
Like this guy Wolf, who's a writer, was conspiring with Epstein to do harm to me. And I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping, the radical left. That Wolf, who's a third-rate writer, was conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to hurt me, politically or otherwise, and that came through loud and clear. So we'll probably sue Wolf on that. And maybe the Epstein estate, I guess. I don't know, but we're going to certainly sue Wolf.
So, a little hard to hear over the jet engines, but basically saying that what came out Friday absolves me. And I'm going to sue. And Michael Wolff, the reporter, who's probably spent more time one-on-one with J.E. from a reporting perspective than anybody. Yeah, Susie, still tell the emperor exactly. Michael Wolff's probably spent more time with him than anybody, right? And basically what he's saying now is he wants to sue Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff's like, bring it. Like the 5th time you threatened that, it's never happened. Now he adds a little nugget saying, I might sue the Jeffrey estate as well. Really? Good luck with that. Because again, that means discovery. So that is just him trying to say, listen, this absolves me. And some of his followers will look at that and they'll be like, you see, he's absolved. Even though they can look right at the documents. They can look right at him. They can see his name everywhere. You can see his name everywhere. He can't run from this, okay? He cannot run from this. We're not going to let him run. I think people in his own party aren't going to let him run because you're really starting to get more movement. We'll see. We'll obviously continue to track that story because I think it's a big one. Here's another element of his delusion because again, people are just trying to protect him, I guess, or whatever. Tell him what he wants to hear.
In fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do.
That was close to straight.
Yeah, the DOJ should just say, I have nothing better to do because it doesn't. Let me give you the beginning of this. Hold on.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact,
I have nothing to do with him. So you sit in the Oval Office and you tell people that you have nothing to do with him. Then you post on True Social, you post this.
Not only wasn't I friendly with J.E., but based upon information that has just been released by the Department of Justice, Epstein and a sleazebag lying author named Michael Wolff conspired in order to damage me and or my presidency. So much for the radical left's hope against hope, some of whom I'll be suing. Additionally, unlike so many people that like to talk trash, I never went to the infested Epstein Island, but almost all those crooked Democrats and their donors did.
Like, come on. I never had anything to do with him? That's what you're going to say? I've nothing to do with him? Not only wasn't I friendly, not only is that not true, you guys hung out together for years. J.E. referred to you as his best friend. And now that's the argument? That's the spin? So I guess this is how they're going to approach it now. We weren't friendly. We just weren't. Your name's all over the files. Doesn't matter. We weren't friendly. Michael Wolff, the author, going to sue him. Going to sue everybody. This has always been his tactic. Okay. Throughout his entire life, this has been his tactic. Just sue people. I'm not gonna pay people. I'm not gonna support people. I'm gonna promise shit and then I'm not gonna deliver. And if I don't like the reporting or I don't like the story, I'm just gonna sue. And so many people over his life have caved. Many haven't. He's lost lots of lawsuits as well. But here we are again. And he thinks literally, exactly, it's the Roy Cohn playbook, Sassy. You're exactly right. He thinks that by just saying it, people will back down. Michael Wolff's like, bring it. Wall Street Journal was like, bring it. He's not going to do it. He can't. Because if he does, then it becomes discovery. So I just think that is such a twisted fucking way to approach these kinds of things. You're going to literally say, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey? Nothing to do with him? I've got nothing to do with him? That's what you want to say? Okay. Good luck with that. I want to find something else for you before we continue here. Because it has to do with again, his obsession with Trevor Noah. Wants to sue Trevor Noah because he said a joke about him at the Grammys. Yeah, that works. Also, I want to go back to the Texas thing for just a second because the House is freaking out currently. I found some sound from people who are in and around that district, and you can hear in their voices how nervous they are. So this is Tim O'Hare, who's a Tarrant County judge in the district, and these are other Republicans. This is former state senator Don Huffins. This is how they're reacting to the state House or the state Senate seat that they lost, and also to Mr. Menifee winning, and also polling and money and interest in the Texas politics right now. You can hear how they're freaking out. So here you go.
Texas. We're going to bend a knee to no man, to no government for any reason. We're not going to look to Washington, D.C.
We cannot afford to lose what is the most important county in the entire country. And last night, we got our butts kicked.
We won't be all right in November if we don't work this election harder than we have ever worked any election in the history of this place.
This is the easiest place in the history of the world to change power for good. Please, help guys like Carolyn's, help guys like Tim O'Hare, help me. Don't just vote yourself. Get your kids, get every friend you have, call it.
They hate your skin color, they hate our history, they hate our heritage, they hate this country, they hate everything that we hold dear. And they have a bloodlust to destroy us.
Wow.
These are the worst enemies that you could possibly imagine.
Wow.
And they are right in our midst. This is Texas.
Wow. Whew. They are angry. They are angry. Everything's bigger in Texas, even he motions, apparently. He's a little bit angry. But I think what you're witnessing there is the obvious, right? They are freaking the fuck out. They are literally freaking the fuck out. And we know how delusional this administration is. Again, this tracks with my theory, right? About how they are not telling him things, or they are telling him just enough and then letting him riff and then using other people to either try to walk it back or say, well, that's not what he meant. So this has to do with that Texas seat that was won by, again, 34-point swing, right? Taylor Remmett, I think is his name, a seat that was not occupied by a Democrat for like 35 years, a seat that Trump won in 2024, or a district that he won in 2024 by 17 points, and it went 17 points in the other direction, so a 34-point swing. So this is some interesting, he was asked about this question. Here you go.
Mr. President, on Texas, a Democrat won your special election in an area that you had won by 17 points. What is your reaction to that?
I don't know. I didn't hear about it. Somebody ran.
I don't know. I didn't hear about it. Somebody ran where?
And where?
In Texas, a special election for legislative
the 9th state Senate seat.
I'm not involved in that. That's a local Texas race. You mean I won by 17?
You did.
And this person lost?
And
Things like that happen.
Does it worry you about the
Well, you don't know whether or not it's transferable. You know, I'm not on the ballot, so you don't know whether or not it's transferable. But, you know, you put the Democrats in, you'll end up with open borders again. You'll end up with crime all over the place. We have no crime anymore. And, I mean, think of it. The country is the lowest crime it's had in 125 years. Right. In recorded history. The year 1900. That's a long time ago. So it's very good. No, I don't know anything about it. I didn't know. I mean, I know there's a race going there. And it's too bad. What can I say? I have nothing to do with it. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. I know there was a race going on there. I didn't know anything about it. Unfortunately, sir, I checked the receipts because just a few days ago, just prior to that election in Texas, on True Social, the president writes this.
Lee Wamgans, a Republican running for the state Senate in the suburbs of Fort Worth, Texas, will be a great candidate and has my complete and total endorsement. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT.
Oopsie. Oopsie. Did you just forget that you endorsed him? Oops. Sorry. Didn't mean that. There you go. Now, I think it's really possible that he has no fucking idea when people are posting for him on True Social. You're right, Payne. It was the auto pen. I'm not involved in that. That's a local race. I don't know anything about it, is the quote. Again.
Lee Wamgans, Republican running for the Senate in suburbs of Fort Worth, will be a great candidate and has my complete and total endorsement.
The argument that he's trying to make is that, hey, I'm not on the ballot. Well, bro, you are. Because your endorsed candidates are getting smoked everywhere. But again, feel free just to lie to people. We got the receipts. Mine like a steel, what is it? That was supposed to be funny. Show us that post? Why don't you just read it yourself? Do you not believe it, Les? Really? Okay. Do you not believe it? Do you not believe that that's what he wrote? It's on Truth Social. Do you not believe it? All right. Tell you what. I'll do you a solid, bro. You know what? I will do this just for you. Just so you can have it. Hang on. I got you. I'm a giver. For those of you who know, I'm a giver. So Les, okay, show us that post. Pin this comment. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you that post. Stand by. Stand by. Hold on. Lee Wamsgans, hold on.
For full effect. Lee Wamsgans, a Republican running for state Senate in the suburbs of Fort Worth, Texas, will be a great candidate and has my complete and total endorsement. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So is that Donald Trump's True Social? Yep. Are those words? Yep. Does that say complete and total endorsement? Yep. Sorry, Les. Gosh, that's unfortunate. Somebody just, yeah, hold on. Hold on, let me take this
off. Hold on. Stand by. Okay. Hold on. Oh, I got an issue. See, all this shit for you, Les. And now it fucked me up. Everybody be patient. There. I think we've sufficiently proved our point. Now, why do you think I would say something like that if I couldn't prove it? Why do you think? Yeah, apologize, bro. Apologize. We'll wait. Did you not believe that to be true? Why would you not believe that? The ceiling's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, there's a bunch of shit. This is my music room. There's like, how many guitars are in here? Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 guitars, 4 amps, a keyboard, a mandolin, a bass, and my golf clubs. So, again, Les, You don't have to apologize. We know you won't, but I just wanted to clarify that you were wrong. So moving on. Point being is the president of the United States is being, sometime I'll play. You said thank you 3 times. Thank you, Les. Appreciate that. So Les, I guess the question is, did you just not believe it to be true? Les, would you request and come up? Because I want to talk to you about something. Come on up. Come on up. I want you to come up because I want to talk to you. I really want to talk to you. I promise I won't be mean. I can be nice. I don't bite. I just nibble. So come on up. I'll give you a minute. The invitation's there. I'll move on and talk about other stuff, but I just want to make sure that you can come up because I want to talk about that. I want to know why you didn't believe that to be true. That's the biggest thing. So please come up so we can talk about it. I promise I will make it. I'll be gentle. I promise. Point being, these are the kinds of things that the president is uttering, and it's so easy to fact check. Literally making a claim that he had nothing to do with Jeffrey, even though we know that that's not true at all. Okay, that he did not have any knowledge of this state Senate race in Texas, even though that's not true at all. So, how do you want to play this? Are we now saying that it's the auto pen on Truth Social? Is that what we're doing? If that's the argument you want to make, then okay, good luck with that. So here's the sound again.
If you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do.
That was closest friend.
I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years. So anyway, Les, thanks for playing. Appreciate you. Okay. I want to get into a little bit. We have to talk about the financial side of this. One of the things that I don't think that I don't think we're talking enough about, because obviously the most important thing in regards to the Jeffrey files is the fact that the survivors' voices need to be heard. We believe survivors, and that privileged white men in particular, privileged men, the richest amongst us, are going to get away with the bulk of their crimes. We know that. One of the things that I don't think we're discussing enough, though, are the financial connections. And the reason I want to kind of shift into that particular mode is just because of all the other things that are happening. The president of the United States now feels like he can just sue not only the DOJ for the situation in Mar-a-Lago, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but now he wants to sue the IRS. So this sound that I heard is mind-boggling to me. That he would say something like this on the same Mar-a-Lago flight where he was flying to the Grammys, I think, that you just heard the sound about him saying, "Oh yeah, I was absolved. I want you to listen to this madness. This is the president of the United States saying this.
You're suing the IRS. Talk a little bit about what it's like to be on both sides.
Okay, the reporter asked him, so can you comment on why it is that you're suing the IRS? I want you to listen to this answer.
It's very interesting. I have another one where I've virtually won the Mar-a-Lago break-in suit, and I have to work out.
Okay, 2 things. The first thing he said is that I won the settlement on the Mar-a-Lago break-in. We'll talk about that in just a moment, okay? Because I did some research on that too. Because I knew what he was talking about, but I did some research on that as well. So he said that I won that, okay?
The Mar-a-Lago break-in suit, and I have to work out some kind of a settlement. I'm supposed to work out a settlement with myself. Because, when the FBI broke in, we sued. Before I was president, I sued. And obviously it was a very good suit. And I have that one, and I have to work out the settlement.
Have you instructed Pam Bondi on how to handle that at all?
Well, I think what we'll do is do something for charity. We're thinking about doing something for charity, where I'll give money to charity.
The president of the United States. Now, for all you loyal constitutionalists that are out there, and by the way, my favorite MAGA to debate one-on-one are the ones that claim to be constitutionalists. Those are my absolute favorite. So for those of you that are in here today, right? Those constitutionalists that are in here today, The President of the United States takes an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The President of the United States sits atop of the federal government, in particular the executive branch, which has jurisdiction over the Attorney General's office and the FBI and law enforcement, et cetera. He is in the Treasury. He is suing the Treasury, and he says, I will negotiate my settlement. I will negotiate what the federal government is going to pay me. Hey, MAGA, do you understand that would literally be him sneaking into your house in the middle of the night and taking money out of your cookie jar and you being happy about it? Do you understand how pathetically fucking corrupt that is? I'm going to determine how much money I get. I'm going to determine how much money I get. Here it is again.
You're suing the IRS. Talk a little bit about what it's like to be on both sides of a lawsuit.
It's very interesting. I have another one where I've virtually won the Mar-a-Lago break-in suit, and I have to work out some kind of a settlement. I'm supposed to work out a settlement with myself because when the FBI broke in, we sued. Before I was president, I sued.
First of all, the FBI did not break in. They had a search. They had a search warrant. They had a judicial warrant. Cool.
And obviously, it was a very good suit, and I have that one, and I have to work out the settlement.
Have you instructed Pam Bondi on how to handle that at all?
Well, I think what we'll do is do something for charity. We're thinking about doing something for charity, where I'll give money to charity. We can make it a substantial amount. Nobody would care because it's going to go to numerous very good charities.
Nobody would care? So suing the federal government, and now you are the arbiter for that suit, and then you can determine what the settlement's going to be, and then you're going to decide what charities to give it to, right? Taxpayer money. You're going to decide how our money gets spent to support your charities, and nobody would care? Anybody on the right want to comment on that at all? Does anybody feel like they would, is anything they would like to say about that? Yes, no, maybe? Good morning, Michelle. How are you today? Oh, Michelle left. Anybody have a comment about that at all? Nothing to see? Totally fine? It's all good? Nothing to see here? Going to sue the federal government and I decide? Cool. Good to know. Good to know. I'm glad he's looking out for us. Yeah, that's great. And I would be curious if somebody's willing to defend it. How do you defend that? Or is that just him saying he's just riffing? Or is that the weave? Okay. General E, it looks like you've timed out, sir. If you want to request again, you can come on back up. Going to give it to his charity. Yeah, his own charity. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good, Stevie. How's it going?
I'm good, brother. What's going on?
Well, listen, first off, when your buddy Mark Lane Mullen there was talking about pulling the TSA, doesn't matter. Airports can still operate without the TSA. They have to hire private security and just follow TSA protocol. So that would do nothing. All that would do would put burden on the traveling public because they get charged more. That's all it would do.
I don't think that was the point that I was making, Chris.
Oh, no, not you. I'm talking about...
It's just a stupid-ass statement to say something like that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's seen the video yet, but there's a great video. I guess a bunch of, young high school kids were out protesting, and some MAGA guy ran out of a truck and attacked one of them, and they all jumped on him. And he had to run back to his truck because, 12 kids were all over him just... grabbing his hat and throwing water at him. It was wonderful because, these MAGA think, oh, well, they're little kids. I can take them out. No.
Yeah, well, that's where we are now.
That's it.
Yeah.
You think we're going to see Bob, you think we're going to see Bob Happy Ending Craft in the Epstein files, or?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised at all. That's how deep this goes.
That's why I can't really get behind the Patriots because, I can't stand the Kraft family.
I'm struggling with that too, friend. I try to separate things out so I can at least get a little bit of enjoyment in life, but I'm struggling with that too, to be perfectly honest with you. Yep. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, be good.
Take care. You take care. See ya. Yeah, I mean, Bob Kraft the owner of the Patriots, is a big Trump supporter, and I struggle with it because I've been a Pats fan my entire fucking life. My entire life. And for those of you who want to hate, you can hate all you want. When I was a kid, the Patriots fucking sucked. It was violent at the stadiums because they were so bad. They were like the laughing stock of the league, with the exception of the Jets. If you know, you know. So it's been a struggle. You know, I will certainly not apologize for the Patriots' success. I'm enjoying it. They're favored this weekend. They may likely win another Super Bowl, but I'm struggling with that relationship. But anyway, that's a different conversation. Somebody said they're a Jets fan. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, you're a Jets fan. I don't know if I would advertise that, to be perfectly honest, but anyway. Okay, a little bit more sound as we before we get into the whole financial connections. You're hearing now the president talking about. Let me back up a second. I don't like the fact that a lot of creators on the left have been talking about martial law and the elections are already rigged. The reason I don't like it is because why would you make the argument that the right's trying to make? Okay, so we're going to show up and vote. People are going to overwhelm the polls. People are going to turn out in districts. Iowa, I think, is in play for the Senate. I think North Carolina, absolutely. I think Maine is absolutely in play. I think Texas is in play. I think Ohio is in play. I'm not saying they're going to win there. I'm just saying that they're in play. And to be honest, I think Florida may even be in play. But that's going to require people to show up. Okay, so the president and his people in his circle know. They know exactly the uphill fight that they're in. So they are trying to figure out any way possible to stay in power. President's not very bright. So Dan Bongino, in case you were worried about Dan, he's back in his podcast studio spreading his conspiracy theory bullshit again. And you know, it's one of those people, like, you go for your next job interview and people be looking at his and say, okay, I noticed a gap in your resume. You were a podcaster, and then there's like a 10-month gap, and then you're back to podcasting again. What did you do in those 10 months? I was I was the deputy director of the FBI. I'm sorry, what? You were the So wait a minute. So you were, hold on, let me get this straight. You were a podcaster, and I looked at some of your YouTube videos on some of your podcasts, and you spread a lot of conspiracy theories, and you talked about a lot of things that were really, really crazy. And that is what got you your job as deputy director of the FBI? That's weird. And now you're back podcasting again? So what happened during your time at the FBI? There's this thing that I talked about. Oh, you mean like the thing you talked about, like the releasing of the files, right? Yeah. I mean, you were like 100% on board. Like, you were demanding the federal government be transparent and release the Jeffrey files, right? Yeah. So what happened? Well, I made, bear with me, I'm in my head. I made these promises to people, and I saw, you saw what? I saw some of the, what were in the file? Well, I saw some of this, maybe I shouldn't work here, and seen. Seriously, like this 10-month gap in his fucking resume that he was the deputy director of the FBI. It used to be considered a prestigious position, right? So now he's back, tail between his legs, back as the podcaster that he is. And of course, one of his first interviews would be with the president. And this is what the president had to say about that. Question about elections.
Country to vote, and they vote illegally.
No.
And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places.
What?
The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. And we have states.
What?
that are so crooked, and they're counting votes. We have states that I won that show I didn't win. Now you're going to see something in Georgia where they were able to get with a court order the ballots. You're going to see some interesting things come out. But, you know, like the 2020 election, I won that election by so much.
Okay. So, first of all, this is the noise, right? Because there are people in his orbit that will take that and say, yeah, we're just going to nationalize the election. You know what? I don't know what nationalize means, but the president said we're going to nationalize erections. No, he's talking about elections. No, he said erections. He wants to make sure that all of us are fighting the fight with our hard tools. No, dude, he said elections, not erections. Well, I heard erections. Well, you got some shit in your brain that you need to focus on. Seek help. Anyway, you cannot nationalize elections. Elections in our country are run by the states. So what about Biden? Now, again, I'd like to ask our constitutionalists, right? I want to ask them, do you support nationalizing elections? Now, do you want to run with the president's theory that thousands of millions of people are voting illegally, therefore we have to nationalize it? Okay. Just want to make sure I understood where the line is, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me anymore, because I don't get it. If you all are so engaged in transparency, and you want free and fair elections, and you want to make sure every voice is heard, if your election lasts longer than 4 hours, see a doctor. Yes, exactly. I'm standing in line for my election. Yeah. Exactly. So, first of all, for two things. Hey now, Jess. Exactly. Thank you for that, friend. I love you. It just gets worse and worse. It just gets worse and worse. There'll be a way someone will try to spin it. Someone will say he's just kidding. Someone will say it's doing the weave. That's not what he meant. Okay. I'm glad to know that that's not what he meant, because that's what I heard. I heard him say we should just nationalize erections, because that's, listen, to be honest, if erections were nationalized, I think our country would be a hell of a lot happier. I'm just saying. Point being, the president is fucking delusional. Thanks, Lat. He's just delusional. Now, are people in his head? Like, do you prep? So when I've worked with candidates in the past, in part of my the work that I do now, I do executive training and coaching. Like I'll help new executives. One of the things that I really like about my job is like people who ascend in the corporate ladder, they always need coaching. Like if the more people you manage, the more responsibilities you have of a leader, the more things you're required to do. And because I've been on that journey, I've ascended from a staffer to a C-suiter. I learned a lot about that process. And I love talking to those people because it helps them develop their skills. And during the journey, you always have somebody who's helping you, right? Where are the people that are helping the president? They are just not there. Now, Susie Wiles is a highly respected political operative. She is the chief of staff. You remember that story that came out in Vanity Fair earlier this year, where she threw just about everybody under the bus with the exception of Marco Rubio. And my theory was that she chose to not throw Marco under the bus because I think she sees him as the potential nominee in 2028, and she wants to be part of that journey. Maybe just my opinion. But where is her? Where is her? Where is Susie Wiles talking to the president before he goes on shows like with Dan Bongino? First of all, why go on Dan Bongino's fucking show? If you want to distance yourself from conspiracy theory bullshit, then why would you even do that? But instead, you go on knowing it's going to get covered. Now, is it a distraction? Maybe. I don't fucking know. Who knows what a distraction is anymore? It's intended to distract us, potentially. We can't be distracted. Then you make a statement like we're just going to nationalize elections. It's impossible. It's not something that can be done. There is no way to even do it. It's very clear in the Constitution that no, it doesn't work that way, but we'll say it anyway. It's fucking wild that no one is bothering to get in his ear about it. Question then is why? Because they're just letting him be him. They're going to let him literally run out the clock. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. But it is what it is. Okay. Is this one? Did I play this sound for you already? Okay, so I think now's the time I want to start to get into some of the financial pieces. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Let me just check over here first. Friends, if you want to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do that. Thank you for the gifting. Thank you for the support. Thank you for joining us on our team. If you've not done that, please consider doing so. Quick reminder, if you head on over to the merch store, it's factsstillmatter.site. Or if you go to the link tree in the bio, hang on. Sorry. The link tree in the bio will take you to Facts HQ. You'll notice there's some really, really cool items in our merch store. Brand new items, in fact. Go check them all out. Thank you, Sam, for making 95% of those. Thank you. There's a couple that fall into the Support Minnesota series. Any items sold in that series, all the proceeds from that will go to support canmn.org. So canmn.org. It's the Minneapolis Community Action Network. They're doing great work on the ground. So if you'd like to support that cause, represent, like I said, any and all proceeds will go to support that organization. I think we just passed like $150 roughly in your donations. We're going to run that through this Friday. So any and all donations, and we will send that donation directly to that organization. So again, thank you very much. All right, so let me just check here real quick. I have a cold. Want to thank Pedro. Thank you so much for your kindness. Appreciate you. Also, thank you, Shane, in support of the Roadshow. Thank you, Shane, for that. I really appreciate that. More details to come on the Do Something Tour. We'll probably announce something a little bit later on this week as to what we are going to be asking of you guys. For those of you that are just finding us here and you've not seen our show the first time, we're doing this thing come springtime called the Do Something Tour, where I'm going to head out on the road likely for 30 days in small villages, towns, rural communities, metropolitan areas, and just have a conversation with voters. We want to really target non-voters. It will be impossible to just target non-voters, but we want to talk to people who are disengaged with our political system, because from my perspective, there's really no better time to be doing this, especially when we're watching Democrats just clean house across the country in districts that they never would have thought ever imaginable. So there's more energy right now than I've ever seen. So there's no better time. Thank you, yes, hashtag Do Something Tour. There's no better time to try to start engaging with voters than right now. The proof of concept in April, if things work out well, which we hope it will, then perhaps go back out on the road again in September after I drop off my daughter at college. Don't get me started, because I'll lose my shit. And then we'll starting in mid to late September, and then leading up to Election Day. So that's the plan. That is my focus. So we will be asking the community for help. Could be logistics support, could be help with transportation, could help with meetups. You might have some connections in your community. Here's this particular event, Steve, you need to go here. That's the plan. I can't be everywhere. My clone's a little bit busy. My clone gets out more than I do. That's the plan. So yes, anyway. So thank you to everybody for supporting us so far. More to come. All right. So again, as I discussed before to start the show, one of the things that's not getting covered enough is the financial connections to not only to the corruption connected to the Trump administration, but the connections to the Epstein network. So I have to move this thing real quick. There is the New York Times has done some amazing work recently And they continue to report on all these financial connections. I just want to give you a little idea of what it is that we're talking about. And then this relates to the what about Biden that I want to discuss today, because the right is trying to go back now, trying to paint Joe Biden and Hunter Biden as corrupt financially. Again, try anything they can to try to avert the eyes of their voters. And we still hear it from the people that are in these TikTok spaces. So this is just a little idea of what the president's been discussing recently in regards to his obvious fraud and corruption. We'll talk about it in just a moment. But listen to this. This was an Oval Office interview yesterday.
Mr. President, the Wall Street Journal reported that the royal family of Abu Dhabi invested hundreds of millions of dollars in your World Liberty Financial. Can you explain why you decided to take that investment? Was that a transaction?
Well, I don't know about it. I know that crypto is a big thing and they like it. A lot of people like it. The people.
Okay, before we get into this, so the question is about the Wall Street Journal, about the UAE make a massive investment in World Liberty Financial. How much you guys want to bet that the president thinks crypto are like fucking arcade tokens? Do you think, is there anybody that thinks he has any fucking idea what it even is? Let's be real. Does the majority of Americans think that they know what crypto is? Have any idea what like digital currency is? Stable coin? Anybody have any idea? I think most people don't. I've learned about it within the last year, and there's still a lot more. There's a lot more that I have to learn, right? So I'm going to connect with Obi, and we're going to do a live on that topic, at least talk about it a little bit. But anyway, you think the president fucking knows? He doesn't have a fucking clue. So here you go.
People behind me like it. My sons are handling that. My family is handling it. And I guess they get investments from different people, but I'm not. I have all I can handle right now with Iran and with Russia and Ukraine and with all the things we're doing. So I don't know exactly, other than, I'm a big crypto person. I'm the one that probably helped crypto more than anybody because I believe in it. And the reason I believe in it is because if we don't do it, Scott, I think we can say then China's going to do it. Right?
Yes, sir.
If we don't do crypto, then China's going to do it. And it's just like AI. We're leading AI by a lot. And if we weren't leading, China would have led. They're very capable. They're very good. What do you have to say about that?
You've made America the digital asset capital of the world. We did the Genius Act for stable coins. Many of the people standing up here are working on the Clarity Bill to
I hope that gets done.
Market structure.
Yeah.
And we're bringing U.S. best practices to an exciting new industry, digital assets, innovation, and it spreads everywhere. So the U.S.
And do you agree that if we didn't do it, China and others would, but China would?
Oh, China would have had the lead, and then others around the world in terrible jurisdictions would have been doing it.
And on Iran, sir, Mr. President.
So again, what the reporter was referencing was this article that came out by the Wall Street Journal, and the headline is "Spy Sheik Bought Secret Stake in Trump Company." So this is all connected to a few things in that particular part of the world, the Middle East, the oil empires of the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, the entire region. $500 million investment for 49% of World Liberty came months before the UAE won access to tightly guarded American AI chips. 4 days, this is dated the 31st. Again, Wall Street Journal. Yes, it's a Murdoch-owned property, but there's a lot of really good journalists that work there. And as we know, we need to support independent journalists now more than ever. Their affiliations with agencies is one thing, but we need to report. We need to respect and prop up and support independent journalists everywhere. Okay. Will I be talking about Tulsi? We don't know a lot about Tulsi. There's a whistleblower thing. I'm trying to get more information. We don't have a lot of information on that yet, so I can stay focused here. Apparently there's a whistleblower file that is so bad involving Tulsi Gabbard that it's like literally in a fucking safe. So your hate for one man is psychotic. Dan, just come on up, Dan. I just want to talk to you, man. It shouldn't be that hard. You have a lot to say in the chat. Maybe you'll come up. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. But anyway. So 4 days before Trump's inauguration last year, lieutenants to an Abu Dhabi royal secretly signed a deal with the Trump family to purchase a 49% stake in their fledgling cryptocurrency venture for $500 million. According to the company documents and people familiar with the matter, the buyers would pay half upfront, steering $187 million to the Trump family entities. No corruption, though. Nothing to see here. The deal with World Liberty Financial, which hasn't previously been reported, was signed by Eric Trump, the president's son. At least $31 million was also slated to flow to entities affiliated with the family of Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff is the emissary that's traveling the globe settling all these wars. Steve Witkoff is the person, along with Jared Kushner, who was part of the negotiation of the ceasefire between Israel and the H group. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner have also gone on the record talking about the redevelopment opportunities of Gaza, turning it into a Mediterranean, elite haven. Similarly, Steve Witkoff, part of the negotiation, actually taking notes from the Russian government as to how to glaze fucking Trump. Steve Witkoff, part of that negotiation to end the Russia-Ukraine war, again opening up development zones in eastern Ukraine and western Russia. But again, I know that's complicated. You guys are the smartest chat on TikTok, but our friends on the right don't give a fuck. If you cannot see how fucking corrupt this is, then I don't know what to tell you. Steve Witkoff literally at the center of all of it. Okay? Again, the deal with World Liberty, which hasn't previously been reported, was signed by Eric Trump, the president's son. At least $31 million was also slated to flow to entities affiliated with the family of Steve Witkoff, a World Liberty co-founder who weeks earlier had been named U.S. envoy to the Middle East, the document said. The investment was backed by Sheikh Tahoun bin Zayed Al Nahyan, an Abu Dhabi royal who has been pushing the U.S. for access to tightly guarded AI chips, according to people familiar with the matter. Tahoun, sometimes referred to as the spy sheik, oh, that's cool, a guy who's known as the spy sheik, in bed with the president of the United States. Yeah, that should make us all feel safe. Is brother to UAE president. He's the brother to the UAE president, the government's national security advisor, as well as the leader of the oil-rich country's largest wealth fund. The spy sheik who negotiated this deal to prop up World Liberty Financial is the brother of the UAE president, the government's national security advisor, as well as the leader of the oil-rich country's largest wealth fund. Yeah, just details. Yeah. He oversees a more than $1.3 trillion empire funded by his personal fortune and state money that spans from fish arms to AI to surveillance, making him one of the most powerful single investors in the world. The deal marked something unprecedented in American politics, a foreign government official taking a major ownership stake in an incoming president's company. Now, we're going to talk about divesting. We're going to talk about the president's tax returns. We're going to talk about how this is beyond criminal. In fact, these things would even fall into the treason category. High crimes and misdemeanors subject to impeachment. Sure, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that because, again, what we're talking about. Okay? Don't forget, the advantages given to these countries. He used tariffs as leverage in that part of the world, in parts of Europe, in East Asia. Vietnam comes to mind in particular, negotiating to put a Trump investment property in Hanoi, I believe, and magically, the contracts were streamlined and fast-tracked around the same time that tariffs were reduced. Thank you. Yeehaw. But nothing to see here, right? Totally fine. Nothing to see. Oh, but he's a businessman. Got it. Trump's election, under the Biden administration, okay, pay attention, MAGA. Under the Biden administration, Tahoun's efforts to get AI hardware have been largely stymied over fears that the sensitive technology could be diverted to China. So let me get this straight. The president tells you that Joe Biden was working with the Chinese government. In fact, Joe Biden was so concerned about China stealing our information technology, specifically AI, that he was involved, his administration was involved with keeping that from happening by not creating relationships with 6 lives dropped in the last 5 minutes. Yeah. Well, everybody tap like crazy. Friends, I need there's 1,400 people in here. If each of you could either give a small gift to keep the live going or tap like crazy and share like crazy, We are under threat. They are trying to suppress us. They're going to do everything they can to suppress us. I'm not afraid. I will not mind my tongue. There are certain things, be good. There are certain things that I will not say because I understand how the algorithm works, but I need you all to be here. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Got it. Okay. Under the Biden administration, Tehun's efforts to get AI hardware had been largely stymied over fears that the sensitive technology could be diverted to China. So the Biden administration stopped exactly what the Trump administration is now doing. But again, nothing to see here, right? Got it. Let's see. Of particular concern was one of Tehun's own companies, the AI firm G42, which had stoked an alarm among intelligence office officials and lawmakers over its close ties to the sanctioned tech giant Huawei and other Chinese firms. The company said it severed ties with China in late 2023, but concerns persisted. Trump's election reopened the door for him. In the months that followed, Tehun met with Trump multiple times, Witkoff and other U.S. officials, including in a March visit to the White House, where the sheikh told officials he was eager to work with the U.S. on AI and other issues, according to people familiar with the matter. Now, if we pull on that thread, don't forget, the administration has pushed back about regulating AI. Why would that be? Why do you think that would be? Just a coincidence, I'm sure. 2 months after the March meeting, again, a March meeting where they talked about, let's see, that paragraph again. Trump's election reopened the door for him. In the months that followed, Tehun met multiple times with Trump, with Witkoff and other U.S. officials, including in a March visit to the White House, where Sheikh told officials he was eager to work with the U.S. on AI and other issues, according to people familiar with the matter. 2 months after that March meeting, the administration committed to give the tiny Gulf monarchy access to around 500,000 of the most advanced AI chips a year, enough to build one of the world's largest AI data centers. The framework agreement called for roughly 1/5 of the chips to go to G42, the Wall Street Journal previously reported. Nothing to see here, though, right? That's completely above board. You have no issues with that whatsoever? The agreement was widely viewed as a coup for the Emiratis' ruling family, overcoming long-standing U.S. national security concerns and allowing the country to compete with the most powerful economies in the world at the cutting edge of AI advances. Proponents hailed the deal for unlocking a flood of investment into the U.S. and for helping entrench American technology as the global standard. Now that you've heard that story, I want you to listen to this statement again from the president. Hang on one second. Did I delete it? Again, so now that I've read that portion of the story, just listen to his statements again, and you can hear the fucking corruption oozing out of it.
Mr. President, the Wall Street Journal reported that the royal family of Abu Dhabi invested hundreds of millions of dollars in your World Liberty Financial. Can you explain why you decided to take that investment? Was that a transaction?
Well, I don't know about it. I know that crypto.
You don't know about it? Okay.
Crypto is a big thing, and they like it. A lot of people like it. The people behind me like it. My sons are handling that. My family is handling it. And I guess they get investments from different people, but I'm not. I have all I can handle right now with Iran and with Russia and Ukraine and with all the things we're doing. So I don't know exactly, other than, I'm a big crypto person. I'm the one that probably helped crypto more than anybody because I believe in it. And the reason I believe in it is because if we don't do it, Scott, I think we can say then China's going to do it. Right?
Yes, sir.
If we don't do crypto, then China's going to do it. And it's just like AI. We're leading AI by a lot. And if we weren't leading, China would have led. They're very capable. They're very good.
My guy, do you understand what you just did? You opened the door for fucking China. You literally just opened the door. The Biden administration, what about Biden? They saw the writing on the wall. They're like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to create we're not going to create access to some of our most sophisticated information to countries who are already working with China, because that exposes us. But no, just tell daddy something nice. Just glaze him with a new 747, and he'll basically just give you all of our fucking secrets.
What do you have to say about that?
You've made America the digital asset capital of the world. We did the Genius Act for stable coins. Many of the people standing up here are working on the Clarity Bill to
I hope that gets done.
Market.
I love stable coins. Those are the coins that you stack them on the table or in the stable, and they're stable. I love stable coins.
Structure, and we're bringing U.S. best practices to an exciting new industry.
Anyway, you get the point on that statement. So back to the story again. The agreement was widely viewed as a coup for the Emirati ruling family, overcoming long-standing U.S. national security concerns. What wasn't publicly known was Tahoon's emissaries had signed the deal to purchase 49% of World Liberty that January. That deal was already in fucking place as soon as the president entered the White House. It is bona fide fucking corruption, and there's no other way to look at it. Of the first $250 million installments from the Tahnoon-backed company called Ariam Investments, $187 million was directed to the Trump family entities, DT Marks DEFI LLC and DT Marks SC LLC, the document said. In addition to the payout to the Witkoff family entities, another $31 million was directed to an entity tied to co-founder Zach Folkman and Chase Hero. The Journal couldn't determine how the second half of Ariam's investment, which was due by July 15, 2025, may have been distributed. The agreement would make Ariam World Liberty's largest shareholder and the firm's only known investor outside of its founders. The deal placed two Ariam executives who also held top positions at Tahoon on World Liberty's 5-person board. So concerned, don't forget, that part of the world by the president the first time was labeled a terrorist state, funding terrorism, okay? So concerned about national security, so concerned about China that you literally created the path for China to get access to our most sensitive technologies. And then you tell your Treasury Secretary, well, if we don't do it, China is. Well, guess what, my guy? You literally just fucking made it easier, and you've enriched yourself and your family. So MAGA, you patriots, you America First clowns, do you understand what we're... I'd like you to understand what it is that we're talking about. Because if you care about national security and you care about protecting American interests, an industry, by the way, that the United States had an opportunity to dominate in, AI. Thank you, Joe Biden. Chips and Science Act. Had an absolute opportunity to dominate in. But nope, not anymore. Not anymore. You literally gave them the keys to the fucking back door and you said, thank you for the jet. Thank you for funding World Liberty Financial. Thank you for the investments into my family. And thank you for greasing my fucking pocket. Is the Wall Street Journal reporting now not accurate? We have the records. Why do you think he didn't want his tax returns released? Why do you think he's still trying to hide them? Why do you think that is? Why do you think he wouldn't sign financial disclosure statements? Have you been able to connect the dots? Follow what, friends? Follow the fucking money. But what about Biden? Well, Hunter Biden sold some pictures for like $5 million. Okay, you want to talk about the jet? What jet? You know, the $400 million jet he got from the Qatari government, the same people that are now propping up his crypto firm? Well, that don't matter because it's going to be the Air Force One. Oh, no, it's not. It's not going to be ready until the president leaves office, and then he's going to take it with him. It's going to go to the Trump library. Yeah, but he'll offer American children rides on the jet. That's what it feels like. How much more corruption do you need to see? How much? How much? I'm going to sue the federal government for the IRS for $10 billion. I'm going to determine what the lawsuit is. I'm going to determine what the settlement is. I'm going to continue to pressure my own federal government to pay me. Meanwhile, he personally has enriched himself to the tune of nearly $2 billion just since he took office. But tell me again, SNAP is too much of a bridge too far, or feeding kids school lunches, or the fraud in Minneapolis. How come you don't want to talk about the $14 billion in fraud in Texas? Nothing to see here, though, right? And remember, Remember, the people in our government, and it goes beyond our government, it goes to every industry in the world. Those people are enriching themselves exponentially while also being likely involved in crimes against children. This is, I mean, you couldn't write this into a movie script. You could not write this into a movie script. The agreement would make REM World Liberty's Financial's largest shareholder. Trump's real estate company has courted deals with foreign companies since his election, and the president has accepted gifts from foreign governments, including a $400 million luxury airliner from Qatar. But the World Liberty deal is the only known case of a foreign government officially purchasing a major stake in a Trump company after his election. A foreign government becomes a principal owner and board-seated member of the Trump family while he is president. But again, nothing to see here. Disclosures on World Liberty's website showed the Trump family's equity interest fell to 38% from 75% last year, indicating someone had likely purchased a stake, but the company has never disclosed a buyer. I wonder why. Weeks before the U.S. UAE chip deal was announced in May, World Liberty CEO Zach Witkoff, yes, the same Witkoff, in fact, Zach is Steve's son, he is the CEO. Again, pulling the thread. Steve Witkoff is out negotiating on behalf of the American government these peace deals. And the two that really stand out to me, I talked about them briefly, was the situation in Gaza, right? And we've already seen Jared Kushner and the president and others talk about these development zones within Gaza, turning it into a Mediterranean hub, beachfront property, golf courses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who stands to gain? We know. And then the proposed peace deal in Ukraine. Eastern Ukraine stays in the hands of Russia. Western Russia is then opened up to foreign investment. Who's at the front line of that? Steve Witkoff. His son is the CEO of World Liberty Financial. How do you think they're going to move the money? How do you think they're going to move the money? Do you understand? I know you do. You're the smartest chat in TikTok. Do you understand? It's always been about Russia. It's always been about Israel. They're all related. Russia, Israel, Jeffrey. We talked yesterday about the Rothschild family and the Epstein family going back to the 30s. This is how big this is, okay? I want to keep tapping. I shouldn't have said that. Let me do this real quick. Hold on.
TikTok. It is our intention during these live broadcasts to only provide fact-based information to the absolute best of our ability. We strive to never spread misinformation or to platform those that do. Opinions of our guests or commenters are theirs and theirs alone and do not reflect those of the host. Hate speech is not allowed, and we are diligent about policing it. This platform is for educational purposes only. We now return you to our regularly scheduled pandemonium, already in progress. So, you know, as we sort of connect the dots in this kinds of thing, I don't think we'll ever understand how deep the corruption goes. We're going to talk about that in a little bit because I wanted to do a comparison because, again, this is the issue that we've had in our country for a very long time, 10 years now, is that the projection from MAGA, and I've got some sound, mods, I saw that MTG clip. I'm going to play that in just a minute. The American people were sold that the MAGA movement and Donald Trump in particular were going to blow the lid off the deep state, that we're going to uncover the fraud, that we're going to uncover the corruption. Meanwhile, there has never been a more corrupt individual. As far as he is beyond corrupt, but he's the president of the United States. We're talking about financial records that go back to prior to the 2016 election. There's now reporting about the influences there and how deep the Russian interference went
and the financial network, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go back in time. We're going to deal with it. We're going to deal with today. The only time I will go back to is I will remind you that going back to the 80s about how he was compromised, about how the Russians were always getting in his ear. They knew full well he was the target because he was malleable, easily influenced, narcissistic, driven off of his ego. And here we are, right? And here we are. So the entire game was to get someone to do the bidding. Russia had no idea that they hit the fucking jackpot. And now we're seeing it. And millions of Americans are just in denial. We can talk to them about, we can show them about the layers of corruption. We can connect the dots. It's class time with facts. We can connect the dots. We can show you what this means, when this happened, and then how this happened. Like, for example, just a couple of months after this negotiation behind the scenes, the promises of jet airliners, right? The promises of access to chips, and all of a sudden, you get this big public announcement that we're now in bed together. Okay. Weeks before the US-UAE chip deal was announced in May, World Liberty CEO Zach Witkoff announced that MGX, a Tanoon-led investment firm, would use World Liberty's stablecoin to complete a $2 billion investment into cryptocurrency exchange Binance. The G42 executives added to World Liberty's board were also on the board of MGX, which is co-owned by G42. Does Binance ring a bell, friends? Smartest chat on TikTok. Does Binance ring a bell to you? Binance was chaired and owned, and the principal was CZ, Chinese national, who was indicted and jailed for his corruption and was given a pardon by the president. Making sense now? Zach Witkoff touted MGX stablecoin deal as an endorsement of World Liberty's technology. He didn't disclose that MGX and World Liberty were being led by some of the same people. Quote, "We made the deal in question because we strongly believe that it was the best for our company as we continue to grow." It said David Waxman, a spokesman for the World Liberty of the RIM investment. The idea that when raising capital, a privately held American company should be held to some unique standard that no other similar company would be held to is both ridiculous and un-American. He said the president and Witkoff had no involvement in the deal and haven't been involved in World Liberty since taking office. It's impossible to say that they weren't involved. It's impossible. There's no way you could say that they weren't involved. No way. The president pardoned CZ. We'll get into that in just a minute. He said the president and Mr. Witkoff had no involvement in the deal and haven't been involved in World Liberty since taking office, and that Witkoff had never played an operational role in the company. He added the deal didn't grant either party involved any sort of access to government decision-making or influence over policy. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, D, you're right. Playing in our faces. We operate by the same rules and regulations as any other company in our space, even though in America, that industry is not regulated. Okay, got it. A person familiar with Tahoon's investment said the Sheikh and his team reviewed World Liberty's plans for a number of months before he and a few co-investors completed an investment in the company, which the person said did not involve G42 money. At no time during that due diligence or thereafter was the investment discussed with President Trump, the person said. Tanoon is a significant investor in crypto businesses, the person said. President Trump only acts in the best interest of the American public. Said White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly, who said his assets are in a trust managed by his children. We're going to dunk on that in just a moment. There are no conflicts of interest. She said Witkoff is working to advance President Trump's goals of peace around the world. White House counsel David Warrington said, quote, the president has no involvement in business deals that would implicate his constitutional responsibility. Friends, those are fucking lies. It's not even a question of stretching the truth. They are lies. They're absolute lies. Okay? He said Witkoff takes seriously his compliance with government ethics rules. He has not and does not participate in any official matters that could impact his financial interests. Again, your son is the chairperson of World Liberty Financial. The deals that you've been negotiating in Israel, Hamas, Western Ukraine, and now in Qatar involve the crypto industry, of which your son is now the chairperson of the Trump-owned World Liberty Financial. Binance, CZ, the chairperson, was popped for funneling money using their platform to agencies who sponsored terror. Donald Trump pardoned CZ. And you want me, and CZ, their stable was one of the biggest early investors into Binance. And you want to tell me that they don't have any involvement? This is what we know. Okay? This is what we know. Never mind what we don't. He said Witkoff takes seriously his compliance with government ethics rules. He has not and does not participate in any official matters that could impact his financial interests, he said, and adding that Witkoff has, quote, divested from World Liberty Financial. Okay. But your son is the chairperson. A person close to Witkoff said the envoy wasn't involved in the country's AI chip negotiations. A Trump organization spokesperson said the company, quote, listen to this. You might want to grab a napkin. A Trump organization spokesperson said the company, quote, takes its ethical obligations extremely seriously and is deeply committed to preventing conflicts of interest and abides by all applicable laws. Yeah. This story just goes on. It's incredibly long. I'm not going to read the entire thing to you. I think you get the point. So, how then do we process this information? How do we process it, right? How do we clear the decks? Think about the people that are involved. People that are getting pardons, people that are getting access to, U.S. technology. Those same companies that are getting access have relationships with China. We know that they've enriched themselves. We know that Steve Witkoff's son is the chairperson of the Trump-owned entity, World Liberty Financial, who's seen its value increase exponentially since the president took office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now the president of the United States wants to sue the federal government for $10 billion because of his claim that he's owed it because there was a whistleblower at the IRS who released his taxes. It's not fucking real life. It's just not. Do I still have... well, you heard it. I'm going to make the deal. He also made this claim about Mar-a-Lago, and he said that he won that lawsuit. Okay. Let's see. Is that true? This is reporting from where's this file? The Guardian has this, ABC has this. Donald Trump did file a legal action against the FBI's Mar-a-Lago search warrant, but it wasn't a traditional sue over the warrant lawsuit challenging the warrant's validity itself. Instead, his legal actions were focused on how the seized materials were handled after the search and then later on seeking compensation. He sued them. Special master was appointed. The lawsuit was dismissed after appeals. So he makes the claim that he won? No. He lost. A lawsuit was dismissed after appeals, and he did not challenge the warrant's issuance itself in court. He's also sought damages from the government related to the search and related investigations, initially through administrative claims that he could lead to lawsuits. What? How the fuck are we living in this fucking hellscape? The entire thing, all of it, friends, 3 simple words: follow the money. The people, some of the same people, some of the same names Same individuals. You're going to find in the Jeffrey files, even though the Department of Justice is still violating the law, because there's new reporting now that part of the Epstein Transparency Act required any likenesses and or images and or references to CSAM should be hidden and redacted. And there are files with victims' names. There's pictures of underage individuals, unclothed. They are violating the law. Same people involved in some of the most ridiculous, repulsive, and despicable crimes imaginable, crimes against children. Some of the same fucking people are in this network enriching themselves. That's how deep this goes. That is how fucking deep this goes. And where is the resistance? It's certainly not members of Congress, Republican members of Congress. They hold the power. This could end tomorrow. This could end tomorrow. They could invoke articles of impeachment in the House. They could sign on. Republicans in the Senate would agree. They could be removed from office. It could happen tomorrow. Where is the outrage? Where is it? Where is it? Nothing to see here, though, right? What about Biden? Hey, Drew.
Hey, buddy. I just wanted to bring up a point, just for something to think about, because it's something that I'm really proud of you and this community for doing every day and how we change how things work. But it got me thinking about it. Do you know who Mara Wilson is?
Mara Wilson? The name rings a bell, but I can't off the top of my head place.
She was a child actress. She's now, I think she does more like, I'm not sure exactly what she does. I know she does some podcasts and things, but she was in Miss Doubtfire. She was in Matilda. She was in.
Yeah.
So I got to thinking about this because she talks a lot about her experience as a child actress and the things that she went through. And she has an interesting perspective because even her mother said she wasn't a particularly, and I'm going to use quotes here, beautiful girl. But she talks about her experience about how being exposed and being in the public eye and the harassment and the attention that she would get. And when people are talking about these files, nowadays, it seems foreign, like all these things that we're seeing in here. It's like, how did this happen? How did we let this happen? How would anybody even go along with this? We also have to remember how our society was at that time and how allowing and how forgiving we were for things like this and how almost encouraging of this behavior. We have to remember that the Olsen twins had numerous websites with countdowns to their 18th birthday. We have to remember that it wasn't just them. It was, if you look through the stories of a lot of these young actresses and actors, for that matter, you're going to see that it was kind of a permissive environment where people were almost encouraging this kind of behavior. We had young women going on talk shows being asked about their breasts.
Correct.
And you remember Britney Spears, she was 16, 17, 18, and she's going on late night talk shows and they're asking her about her breasts.
Correct.
I was guilty of it at the time. I'm sure you were guilty of it at the time. I think probably everybody in the chat was probably either guilty of participating or not being vocal enough about it. But I just wanted to say that it's important for people to remember that, and this is not like in the 50s, guys. This is in the early 2000s. This is in the late 1990s, even through the 2010s, that this kind of stuff was going on and it wasn't being brought. People weren't saying, oh, that's inappropriate. It was just like, oh, they're famous. They can deal with it. But we have to remember that we, as a society, kind of were permissive. Now, the folks in these files are the ones that have the resources to make their little sick fantasies a reality. And that's what this whole network was about. These people had so much money that they felt they could do anything and get away with anything that they wanted to do. But I'm really proud of our community because we're taking the steps to say, hey, that behavior is not acceptable anymore. We have to recognize and we have to point it out and we have to recognize the misogyny. We have to recognize all the things that got us to the point where that just became normal for these obscenely rich people. And now we're seeing the results.
Every day. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's so much deeper. The great culture promoted in movies and television shows and the dehumanization and the infantilizing of women and women and men and boys and girls, it is just pervasive. And if there's anything that potentially any of this does, will it change? No, it won't. Will we put more light on it? Hopefully, yeah. I mean, people with power are always going to be people with power. They're always going to have their networks. They're always going to have their safe spaces. They're always going to have these places that they can go. And, that's why this is so important. That's why this story is so important for us to cover, because of what it involves, not just the horrible natures of the crime, that's bad enough, but how deep it goes, and the people that are protecting the people that are committing these crimes and not protecting the survivors.
And you say it about Trump all the time, that we're not this way because Trump is president. Trump is president because we are how we are. And it's the same
Correct.
Situation with JE, with the files.
Correct.
We have to hold them accountable. We are at a point where we have to stop protecting. And the reason is because they took advantage of where we were at as a society, and they took it to a gross and destructive and dehumanizing level. Correct. And we have to, it starts with us changing how we act and understanding that we as a society, we're broken and are broken, and we can do better. We have to do better. These files are not an aberration. They are just what our society allowed to happen. So that's all I wanted to add, but it was just a perspective that got me thinking yesterday.
I agree. I appreciate that. You're right on the money. The power begets corruption, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate you, brother. Have a good day. Be safe out there.
Steve.
Take
Bye.
care. All right, see you, buddy. He's right. That's why we talk about this a lot. That's why, to me, it's always about the money, right? It's always about follow the money, because rich people, what do they want? They want more. They want to acquire more. It becomes this competition. People at the top are fighting to be the most influential, powerful person in the world. That's why they are donating to campaigns. That's why they helped Donald Trump get elected. Because you can look at the Melania movie. You can look at the investments behind that. These are all favors. And our president has shown that his pocket is open for anybody who strokes it. Anybody who wants to put their hand in, as long as it benefits him, and then he will just lie about it, or he'll be kept out of the loop. The situation with Binance and financing and pardoning CZ and all the other people connected to fraud. It's right. Yeah, you're right, Joe Best. It's literally right in our face, but his supporters just don't care. They just don't care. They'll say he's a businessman. So I want to just take a brief pause from that and kind of go back in time, talk about in context of Joe Biden, because I want to unpack some shit that I don't think has been studied in a little while. Because I think we've done a decent job this morning kind of setting the stage for what it is that we're going to discuss now, right? We know how corrupt the president is. We know. We know how corrupt he is. We know that he's enriched himself. We know that his family has enriched himself. We know that his connections have enriched themselves. We know his policy positions benefit the people that line his pocket. Therefore, they take advantage of it as well. Okay, it doesn't take brainiacs to make those connections. All right. Before I do that, though, I want to play this sound because I think it's important. I never want to give credit to MTG. It's just what she said here is very, very interesting. So here you go. So this is MTG. There was no bigger hardcore MAGA defender than MTG. And this is what she has to say.
I think people are realizing it was all a lie.
It
was a big lie for the people. What MAGA is really serving in this administration, who they're serving is their big donors, the big donors that donated all the money and continue to donate to the president's PACs and donate to the 250th anniversary and are donating to the big ballroom. And if they're donating to all these things, those are the people that get the special favors, they get the government contracts, they get the pardons, or somebody they love or one of their friends gets a pardon. And it's the foreign countries that are running the show here. It's the major big corporations and what is best for the world. That's really what MAGA is. That's the results. That's what we're seeing after one full year of MAGA. MAGA is...
She knew this, though. See, Marjorie, nobody believes your bullshit. You knew this. You knew this. Now you're trying to save your reputation, I guess. Whatever. Don't forget that special election is coming up in March for that seat. But that's a MAGA insider, right? We know that she enriched herself $25-30 million since she took office, right? So we know she took advantage of some of the opportunities, right? Of course. Anyway. Okay. So let's do some comparison shopping, shall we? Let's break this down a little bit. So the biggest thing that people would hold over the president's head was because of Hunter's connections to Burisma. They created this entire narrative that money, billions of dollars in some cases, was being funneled through Burisma to Hunter, to his dad, to buy favors. Okay? It's a complicated TikTok topic, so I'm going to be very careful here. This is from a combination of the Senate Finance Committee. This has got Reuters. I just compiled a bunch of shit here for you. The question then becomes, what do we know about Hunter? How much money he made when he was at Burisma? And then how did that impact, if it did impact at all, the Biden family? A U.S. Senate committee report states that Hunter Biden was paid as much as $50,000 per month to serve on Burisma's board. We know that. That line is widely repeated because it's a simple figure, but the report also discusses wire transfers that suggest higher per wire amounts while still not providing exactly how much went to Hunter personally versus intermediaries. Okay? Reuters went deep on this. Reuters reported that records they reviewed, which two former Ukrainian law enforcement officials said, show Burisma paid about $3.4 million to Rosemont Seneca Bohai LLC. It's a company controlled by Devon Archer between April 2014 and November 2015. Reuters adds that for 18 months, there were two payments of $83,033 per month for consulting services. And sources told Reuters one of the two monthly payments was intended for Hunter and one for Devon Archer. Reuters explicitly says it could not independently verify with the authenticity of the documents or how much money Hunter himself received. Quote, if the two payments, again, with Reuters, if the two payments per month framing is right, the intended use for Hunter portion would be roughly $83,333 per month during those 18 months, or approximately $1.5 million over 18 months. Okay. Let's assume that is accurate. $1.5 million. $1.5 million paid to Hunter and Devon Archer. And don't forget, Devon Archer was brought in by MAGA Republicans as the person that they thought was going to blow the cover off this thing, and it backfired in their face. The same Senate report describes 48 wires from Burisma to Rosemont Seneca Bohai totaling $3,489,490.78 from May 15th, 2014 to February 12th, 2016. Many of those labeled consulting services and many for the same amount, $83,333.33. 9 wires totaled $752,054 to Owasco, Hunter Biden's entity. Again, $750,000, okay? To Hunter's entity from January the 25th, 2016 to November the 16th, 2016, including several payments for around $83,333. I'm taking you guys through this intentionally slowly because I'm trying to build up to where these claims come from the right that the Biden crime family. I think this reporting I'm going to do for you now just blows the cover off all of that. So we'll get to it. So hang in there with me. These figures describe what Burisma wired to entities. They're strong evidence of cash flow, but they don't automatically equal Hunter's personal take-home pay. Again, entities can have partners, expenses, onward transfers, etc. The report itself, again, this is from the Senate Finance Committee. The report itself also discusses onward transfers from Rosemont Seneca Bohai to Hunter accounts. In a House Oversight Committee, they claimed it was $1 million each year, framing from 2014 to 2015, totaling $6.5 million. A House Oversight Committee memo in August of 2023 claims that Burisma agreed to pay Hunter and Devin Archer $1 million each per year. It also says that from 2014 to 2015, Hunter and Archer received approximately $3.32 million and provides a table of Burisma to Rosemont services, including the wire transfers. And it further claims, based on IRS whistleblower testimony, that they earned $6.5 million from Burisma. The $6.5 million is presented as a committee whistleblower-based assertion. It's not the same thing as published accounting records. There is no public accounting of the $6.5 million that the Republican-led Oversight Committee proposed. In fact, during some of Devin Archer's testimony, he addressed that. They could not corroborate. So the only thing we have is a whistleblower with no claims, no accounting practices, and no evidence. Okay. So, to summarize, a commonly cited claim, this is from the Senate Finance Committee, backed up by reporting from Reuters. A commonly cited claim is that Hunter received approximately $50,000 per month. Okay? Minimums that directly described as going to Hunter's include a total of $3.4 million during that time. So that's the number that's been reported. That's the accounting practice. Okay? So that's Hunter. So $3.5 million. Now, we've got whistleblower testimony that's been non-corroborated, but that's the information that we have that's been researched by the Senate Finance Committee through oversight and through reporting. Corroboration of the story, the numbers are about the same to the dollar, $3.4 million. Okay? That's the number. $3.4 million. Let's talk about Joe now. Okay? What about Biden? What about Biden? Joe Biden served in government for approximately 50 years. Anybody want to take a guess as to what Joe Biden's net worth was when he left the presidency? Anybody want to take a guess? Throw out a number. Anybody want to take a guess what his net worth was when he left? Anybody? The guesstimates are between $8 and $10 million. So Hunter got paid roughly $3.5 million from his time at Burisma. Okay. Joe Biden's net worth when he left the presidency was, on the high end, $10 million after serving in government for 50 years. What about Biden? Most nonpartisan estimates, Forbes, Open Secrets, major financial outlets, tax returns, place Biden's net worth in the high single-digit millions when he left the presidency, far below recent presidential candidates and even members of Congress. How did he get his money? After leaving the vice presidency in 2017, Joe and Jill earned roughly $15 to $17 million gross from two books, Promise Me, Dad, and Where the Light Enters. After taxes, agents, expenses, their net gain was several $1 million. Almost all of Joe Biden's wealth was accumulated after age 70, after decades in public service. The Bidens owned a home in Greenville, Delaware, and a vacation home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, estimated combined equity between $4 and $5 million. They did not own foreign property. They did not own luxury estates. They did not own private islands. And they did not own OPEC shell real estate structures. Senate pension, federal retirement benefits, solid as predicted here, but not enormous by elite standards. No business empire. Unlike several modern presidents, no family conglomerate, no licensing brand, no hotels, no towers, no golf courses, no sneakers, no gold cards, no crypto ventures, no sovereign wealth or foreign investment vehicles. None of that. Previous presidents, okay? Bush, 40 to 50, Barack around 60, Jimmy Carter around 10, Trump, billions, Joe, 8 to 10 million. Joe Biden's not in the files either. So explain to me then, if the issue is, what about Biden? Hunter's cock, he sold pictures. So the reporting that we have, the accounting, okay, this comes from even the Senate Finance Committee shared this information. That's what's public. They made claims. Let's assume the claims are true. Let's assume the claims are true that there was an additional $6 million. So that would put Hunter at roughly $10 million during his time at Burisma, and Joe's net worth at around $10 million on the high end. So that's $20 million. In this day and age, to us, that's a lot of money. But in this day and age, that ain't shit. But again, what about Biden? Joe was in office for nearly 50 years. He entered the presidency without any significant wealth. He became a millionaire only after leaving office once via transparent book income. That profile is closer to mid-20th century politicians rather than today's elites. Bottom line, when Joe Biden left office, his net worth was roughly $8 to $10 million, largely from books, real estate appreciation, and pensions. Not from business deals, not from foreign governments, not from corporate boards, not from opaque financial vehicles. So why do we talk about it? Why do we continue to talk about it? Because it's projection. That's the whole point. Projection. We can't take ownership ourselves, we being MAGA right. We can't address the fact that Donald Trump is beyond corrupt. It's not even corrupt. Is not even close to the right word. I don't know what else to use to describe it. Using the power of United States foreign policy to enrich yourself. Using the power of the pardon to get CZ, the Binance guy, out of fucking jail. The same Binance guy who had a major stake in World Liberty Financial and helped transfer money to all these various entities. But that's not corrupt, right? Of course not. Again, high crimes and misdemeanors. This is using the federal government to enrich yourself. I don't know how you could have a more high crime politically. We know what happened in Vietnam. We saw it happen in real time. We know that there were tariffs used for leverage. We know that there was a conversation. We know that the Vietnamese government agreed to fast-track permits for Trump properties in Vietnam, and then lo and behold, the tariff got reduced. It doesn't even take a big stretch to connect the dots. It just has to be some willingness. But instead, what we get from the right is, well, he's a businessman. Okay. Let's talk about that. When Biden again entered the presidency in 2021, his net worth was roughly $8 million based on his asset. And when he left, it was $10 million. Real estate appreciation, previous book royalties. Members of Congress tend to be wealthier than the average American household, as we know. Median net worth of members of Congress has been reported at around $1 million or more, which is far above the U.S. median household income of roughly $120K. Some estimates in specific contexts, for example, tax writing committee members put average net worth near $15 million or higher. We have billionaires in Congress. There are billionaires in Trump's cabinet. Those people are writing policy for the rest of us. Those people have access to insider trading information. Those people are firmly aware of the results of some of their decisions as the stock market crashes after Liberation Day, for example. Then who's in a position to buy up that capital and enrich themselves even further? You guessed it, the rich. Okay. So let's talk about Trump for just a second, okay? And we're going to make the comparison here because my intent today is to say, all right, if you truly do care about crimes and corruption, financial fraud and ill-begotten gains, as they say, then I would like you to look directly at the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and stop talking about Joe. because it's not relevant. Trump had a long-established real estate licensing brand prior to becoming the president, worth an estimated several billions of dollars. There's debate about that because it has to do with his tax returns. During his first term, analysts reported his net worth fell due to pandemic pressures and property performance before rebounding after leaving office. By 2025, major wealth trackers like Forbes estimated Trump's net worth in the multi-billion-dollar range, roughly $5 to $7 billion, depending on valuation methods and market movements. And don't forget, one of the crimes that he was found liable of, the fraud crimes, was his manipulation of his assets. You know, to get bank loans, he increased the value. To pay taxes, he decreased the value. Okay? After leaving office, Trump's business ventures, especially in media and crypto-related assets, reportedly contribute to significant net worth increases, several billion dollars by mid-2025. So let me get this straight. Joe Biden served in government for 50 years, entered the presidency with a net worth of $8 million, due largely to real estate appreciation and some book deals that he'd signed then. He left office with a net worth of around $10 million. Donald Trump enters the presidency with a net worth of roughly $5 billion, and he's increased it by that amount in 1 year. Okay. Just want to make sure I understood that correctly. Before I proceed, I should play our PSA, and I'll be right back.
TikTok. It is our intention during these live broadcasts to only provide fact-based information to the absolute best of our ability. We strive to never spread misinformation or to platform those that do. Opinions of our guest or commenters are theirs and theirs alone and do not reflect those of the host. Hate speech is not allowed, and we are diligent about policing it. This platform is for educational purposes only. We now return you to our regularly scheduled pandemonium, already in progress.
This giant yellow thing up in the sky that I haven't seen in weeks. I took a moment. Kipper's lying in the sun. I'm like, is that the sun? Holy shit. Anyway, so let's back up a second, right? As we were just discussing. Joe Biden in government for 50 years. Okay? If you even want to say that the missing $6 million that the Oversight Committee said that a whistleblower told them that Hunter Biden got $6.5 million. Let's assume that's the case. We know from the financial records and from tax information, we know all that exists, that what he earned from Burisma while he was there was $3.5 million over the course of nearly 18 months. Okay? So combined, Joe, his worth, and claims on the high end that Hunter made is roughly $20 million. Joe Biden served in government for 50 years. I'm not here defending Joe. Okay, I'll defend his character because I think he's a good man. I think he's a decent man. Donald Trump has enriched himself by nearly $5 billion. Not only himself individually, around $1.4 billion, but his business entities as well, because he has not divested. He's not. We have evidence of that. I'll get to that in just a second. Okay. By 2025, again, major wealth trackers like Forbes estimate Trump's net worth in the multi-billion-dollar range, an increase of between $5 and $6 billion, which would then double what his worth was when he entered the presidency. After leaving office his first term, Trump's business ventures, especially in media and crypto-related assets, reportedly contributed significant net worth increases, several billion dollars more by mid-2025. Some investigative reports, the New York Times, Forbes, and others, suggest Trump's family realized hundreds of millions to over $1 billion in profits in 1 year alone during his second administration, though figures vary widely depending on your source and your methodology. Joe Biden, when he entered the office, $8 million. When Donald Trump entered, multi-billionaire. When Joe Biden left the office, his net worth was $10 million. Donald Trump has increased his wealth twofold by between $4 and $5 billion. Primary wealth sources for Joe: salary, real estate, book royalties. For Trump, business empire, real estate, media, crypto ventures, of which he's used the leverage of the federal government. Again, this is when I was going through this research, I'm just like, this is just unfucking believable. Unfucking believable how bad this is. Biden's net worth is higher than the median member of Congress overall, but not exceptionally higher. Biden's wealth remains in the single-digit millions, reflecting decades of public service and moderate post office earnings. Trump's wealth is in the billions, growing through business ventures that span real estate, branding, media, and digital assets, an entirely different scale and accumulation. So the question is about divesting, because Jimmy Carter was so concerned about the appearance of impropriety that he sold his peanut farm. That's part of the deal. You are responsible to divest, meaning you cannot be, whether it be a blind trust or a public trust, you cannot be connected to your family business. That is part of the divestiture, which is why we can make claims about high crimes and misdemeanors. Donald Trump has not officially divested from his companies while serving as president. This is reporting from Forbes and Reuters. Trump has not officially divested from his companies while serving as president, either in his first term or in his current firm. Instead, his approach has been very different than most modern presidents. No blind trust. Unlike most presidents who put assets into a fully independent blind trust to avoid conflicts of interest, Trump has refused to do so. A blind trust means the owner has no control or knowledge about how assets are handled. A third party manages them independently. It is widely seen as the clearest way to prevent conflicts. Trump instead used a different arrangement, not a blind trust. He placed assets in a trust managed by his kids. Dumb shit and fucknut. Trump transferred operational control management to the Trump Organization to his children, Don Jr. and Eric in particular. Assets are nominally held in a trust, but one controlled by his family, not by an independent trustee. So, his family is not divesting. He has not separated himself, which is why we've seen his wealth increase. And I know what the right's going to say. Well, you know what he did? He donated his salary. We'll talk about that in just a minute. This arrangement does not meet the standard. The trustee managers are his children and partners, not independent parties. He retains beneficial ownership, that being Trump, and then he can benefit from the business once he leaves office. Which means the money is accumulating. He is not divested. He still sits to stand to gain while president. And then once he's out of office, more and more and more and more and more. More and more and more and more and more. During his campaign in 2015 to 2016, he initially talked about resigning from his business. This is from Forbes. But from the start of his first administration, he made clear he would not divest or put his assets into a true blind trust. MAGA, did you know that? Did you know that he did not divest? Did you know that he did not separate from himself from the family like he was supposed to do? Did you know that? Did you know that? You probably didn't. Or if you did, you just don't care. He kept his ownership stake in the Trump org while giving management to his children. Ethics experts criticized this because the structure did not eliminate conflicts of interest. So guess what? Here we are. The conflicts of interest are prevalent every single day. That's why we're talking about it. Good morning, Mix. How are you today? Hello?
Hi, bro. From Syria, need help. Please, 5 minutes. Please, 5 minutes. Please, brother.
Okay, I'll put you on mute. No problem. If you want to help out, friends, if you've got some coins you want to spare, help our friend. Maybe throw some that way. We're doing the work here. Appreciate that. We'll give him a few minutes. If we can get into 1,000 coins, friend, that'd be great. Actually, is gifting suspended? Looks like gifting might be suspended. No, maybe not. Anyway, all right. Just hang tight, bro. We'll get you. He kept his ownership. This is from 2017 to 2021. He kept his ownership stake in the Trump org while giving management to his kids. Ethics experts criticize this because the structure did not eliminate conflicts of interest. Second term, elected again, enriched himself to the tune of billions of dollars between his first term and his presidency. He did not divest again or place his assets in a blind trust. A trust still exists, but it's managed by his family members, not independent managers. Okay? So can we stop talking about how the president has just separated himself from his family investments? It's ridiculous. Okay? It's absolutely ridiculous. And here we are still talking about the Biden crime family. Give me a fucking break. Thank you, friend. Appreciate you. Thanks, friend. Thank you, guys. That was very kind. All right. Because Trump did not divest, this has raised ongoing concerns among government ethics experts and watchdogs. Critics argue that Trump's business holdings, including real estate, hotels, licensing deals, and investments, could benefit from policies or government decisions made during his presidency. You think? You think? Because, don't forget, hang on. I have pretty significant hearing loss in my left ear. And because of too many rock concerts and as a radio DJ, I've had headphones out my entire life. So there's one headphone that works better than the other, which is why I have to swap them. Anyway, long story short, the point of this, right, is that when you are using the power of the federal government to either remove regulations for certain industries or use the power of the government to play the favored nation status role, and your business empire will benefit from it, and you are not divested from it, that is textbook fucking corruption. Textbook. I don't know how else to explain it. He has enriched himself using the power of the federal government. $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS because he did not disclose his tax returns and somebody said that he didn't. And he's now going to sue the American taxpayer and we're going to have to pay it and he's going to decide what the settlement is. But again, nothing to see here. So now let's talk about the salary component, right? Yes. He did state that he did not want to take his salary. By law, the president cannot decline the salary outright. We know that. He accepted the $400,000 salary each year and then donated it, so he says. He didn't donate them to charities. Nope. He donated them to government agencies, from what we know. He publicly announced, and agencies acknowledged, that donations went to the National Park Service, Department of Interior, Department of Education, DHS, Department of Transportation, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Health and Human Services, National Institute of Health, Veteran Affairs, and then C-19 response efforts. So, okay. So your taxpayer dollars going to agencies who are already appropriated, $400,000. Okay. Some donations, especially in late 2019 and part of 2020, were announced later than earlier ones, prompting criticism that the documentation wasn't always immediate. No credible evidence shows that he kept the salary. Records and agency statements support that the salary was donated, albeit with uneven transparency. It's uncommon, but it's not unique. He's the one that made the claim, and I'm the only president ever to do it. Nope. JFK did it. You can't, by law, refuse it. That was also the claim that he made. Presidential salary side by side. Here you go. So Donald Trump received a $400,000. By the way, the president's salary is $400,000. It's mandated by law. Same thing with Joe Biden. Could they refuse it? No, they cannot refuse it outright. No president can. Donald Trump accepted the salary, then donated it. Joe Biden kept the salary. Quarterly donations to federal agencies from Trump. There were no donations of salary under Joe Biden. Publicly announced some delays and inconsistencies. The documentation would look a little suspicious under Trump. Standard disclosures for Joe Biden, following the law. Share of personal wealth. In regards to Donald Trump, the $400,000 a year salary is negligible if his net worth is between $5 and $7 billion. Meaningful portion of Joe Biden's net worth, because his net worth is total at between $8 and $10 million. And then symbolic framing, they categorize it this way. Trump, I don't need the money. Joe Biden, this is my job. I'm paid for it. Okay. So again, National Park Service, Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Transportation, Department of Homeland Security, National Institutes of Health, Department of Veteran Affairs, and then C-19. So now when you're making these claims that you're going to sue the IRS and you say we're going to donate it to charity, he said that the last time. Your taxpayer dollars, $10 billion, because he was supposed to, by law, release his tax returns. He didn't. Somebody whistle blew and released some of them. And because that came from the IRS, he's so fucking triggered. Imagine how bad it must be. Imagine how bad his tax returns must be if he's suing his own government because some of them were released. Okay. So can we stop talking about the Biden crime family, please? Can we stop? And I can tell you right now, humbly speaking, nobody's going to give you that kind of breakdown. Nobody's going to compare the dollars and cents. Hunter on the high end, $6 million. Joe Biden on the high end, $10 million. So $20 million bucks. $20 million. $20 million. $20 million. And all of a sudden, the corruption is connected to the Biden crime family? Trump has not divested. He has not separated himself from his family business. He is still earning money. He is still making money. He is using the power of the federal government to enrich himself. Full stop. Full stop. Now, I don't expect there ever to be any concessions from our hardcore MAGA voters on the right about this, but you guys need this information for these conversations. You just need to remind people of a few things. The only thing that I think if I were to focus on one thing, I would ask them to show you evidence of Donald Trump divesting himself from his family business. Well, I don't know what divest means. You mean like you put red dye on your fishing vest? No, that's not what that means. So that would be something I would focus on. Has the president divested? And when they say, yeah, then make him prove it, because there is absolutely no evidence that he has. None. The current president of the United States, I'll say this again, is using the power of the federal government to enrich himself, his family, and his friends. And we know it to be true because all we have to do is connect the dots. We can talk about Steve Witkoff's son being the chairperson of the Trump-owned entity World Liberty Financial. We can watch Steve Witkoff, father, negotiating these deals, bringing in global investment. What method do you think they're going to use to move that money? They're going to use organizations like Binance. By the way, that Mr. Trump pardoned the chairperson. They're going to use World Liberty Financial. So they all make boatloads of fucking money. MAGA, do you understand that they are laughing at you? They are absolutely laughing at you. The entire network connected to Jeffrey, don't forget, he was a financier. That's how he got access to all these people. That's how he used his leverage to blackmail people. It goes so fucking deep. It goes so fucking deep. Normally, the deeper the better, but in this case, I don't know. Part of the change that I'd like to see, right, in our federal government, we do have ethics laws. There is a requirement for the president to become to divest. There is a requirement to make your taxes go public. I would like to see exactly. Good point, brother. I would like to see laws saying you cannot take the oath of office. You are no longer, you're not eligible to be the president unless you divest prior to election day. You cannot be on the ballot. Your tax returns have to be made public or you cannot be on the ballot. If you got nothing to hide, then you got nothing to hide. Joe Biden disclosed his. Barack Obama disclosed his. Bill Clinton disclosed his. George Bush disclosed his, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. And the only one who hasn't is Donald Trump. And the only one who has continued to enrich himself during that entire time is Donald Trump. And the only one using the power of the presidency to do that enriching, say it with me, friends, the current president. But again, what about Biden? What about Biden? Now, what about Biden? So that's where we sit, right? On this mountain of corruption. It could not be any, I think corruption's the wrong word. I mean, financial crimes are fucking horrible, right? Our friend Obi, who's, he used to work in that space, investigating fraud, being a risk officer. This is beyond anything that any of us could ever fucking imagine how deep this goes. And again, the overlap is the money. The overlap because of some of the same people that are being protected by the United States Department of Justice, those that are on the e-files. Some of those same people that are being protected are in this network, are in this enrichment network. It's so fucking bad. It does make Madoff look like an altar boy. You're right, it does. And you couldn't devise a more corrupt Ponzi scheme. I won't even call it that. But so how do we get out of it? I don't know what that looks like. I'm not opposed to people having a life before and after their presidency, but this is just, and I was looking at some of these numbers, I'm thinking, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then that brings us to the claims now that they're trying to move away from the fact that they don't believe he's a 34-time convicted felon. He's a felon because of the similar types of practices, these fraud practices, right? Disclosure statements, lying about that, manipulating the books, cooking the books, as they say. And those 34 crimes, in hindsight, looking back on them now, they're nothing compared to what he's doing currently. Every single day, every fucking day. And then he goes on the record saying, I don't want housing costs to go down. I want them to go up. Lying to the face of the American people about affordability. Talking about 50-year mortgages. You should only get $2 instead of $37, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. $400 million for a Qatari jet. $1 billion here, $1 billion there. The ballroom, now apparently construction has stalled because a lot of people don't want to be connected to it. Where's the donor list? Where's the donor list? Now he's talking about an IndyCar race in Washington. Why the fuck are we doing that? Where's the money coming for that? Who's spending it and where and why and how? But again, nothing to see here. But again, what about Peeps, you're right. It's a good point. This really exposed how weak our government is. I would say, yes, you're right. Democracy, the way it was intended, requires ethical people to be in power, right? Because with power comes responsibility, right? So it requires people to be ethical because as we've seen, there are so many cracks. Who's going to police it? Is the DOJ, right now the DHS is investigating itself? How does that work? Hello, sir. Come here. You guys can say hi to Kipper. Say hello. Say hello. Good boy. Get down. So please don't say, we don't want to, listen, we can't say here to a third party. No, that's the wrong answer. The right answer is electing progressives, people who are willing to sign on to outlawing insider trading, congressional stock trading bans, outlawing lobbying, running on getting rid of Citizens United, because it's never going to change unless we can get money out of politics. Do you notice how Republicans seem to be averse to that? Why is that, do you think? Why do we think Republicans are afraid of signing stock trading bans? Why is that? I think it's disgusting that Nancy Pelosi made others, but she's not even the biggest culprit in the House. There are others. No one wants to talk about them though, right? Of course. I assume that elections are still real because they are still real. We still have elections. Yeah. All right. So something I want to do a little bit, I want to do something a little different here too, because I want to talk about the New York case because we're starting to hear this more and more now. Don't forget, I almost forgot about this. The president has decided he wants to sue the DOJ as well. So not just the $10 billion case against the Treasury, he also wants to sue the DOJ. And the claim that he made that he won the lawsuit in Mar-a-Lago, again, is another lie. He's not seizing the election nationally, illusion of choice. He's not. So stop saying things like that. You're spreading misinformation. He can't. If you knew how the Constitution works, he can't do that. Okay? Good point. If elections didn't matter, then why would they be working so hard to try to steal them? Got it. Good point. Okay, I want to talk about the New York fraud case or the conviction. This is what people don't know because people are unwilling to look at the truth. So this is going to take me a little time to work through this. So maybe refresh your beverage, whatever that might be. Let me just move here real quick. 1 second. Okay. So the claim that the right likes to use in regard to the conviction, the 34 felony count convictions against Donald Trump in New York, is because of a variety of reasons. That no one has ever been tried under those conditions before and or convicted. That, thank you, Jaden, that it was a weaponized against the president and that the case was not decided unanimously. So it's going to take me a little time to kind of take you through this, but we're going to talk about it today because if you are, here's some advice. Don't ever relent on the truth, for one. And when you're talking about sourcing, this is public record. So I went and found the actual jury instructions from the judge overseeing the case. And the reason I'm talking about this now is because this is what we're discussing here. It's the what about Biden? It's the fraud that exists currently in the White House. They want to deflect and blame somebody else. They want to say that the government was weaponized against Donald Trump, that these charges never happened before, that it was unique, that it was because it was Trump. I will give you this. It was certainly unique because never before have we ever had an American president ever indicted for crimes and then found guilty. So yes, it was unique. Okay. The judge instructed jurors that Trump was presumed innocent and that the prosecution had to prove each element of each felony charge beyond a reasonable doubt before they could convict. The people must prove that Trump committed the crime alleged in each count. He faced 34 counts, 34 individual counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. under New York Penal Law 175.10. Each count tied to a specific business record. One of the lies that they like to tell you is that it was 34 counts of the same charge, same crime. Incorrect. 34 individual counts, and the law applied to each one of those counts. To convict on a first-degree falsifying business records charge, the people had to prove, this is from NewYorkCourts.com, to convict on a first-degree falsifying business records charge, the people had to prove that Trump knowingly made false entries or caused them to be made in business records with the intent to defraud, and that the falsehood was designed to hide or conceal another underlying crime. Again, this is part of the lies saying that there was no underlying crime. Jurors were instructed that falsification becomes a felony rather than just a misdemeanor when done to further or conceal another crime. So the elevator, right? The individual crimes themselves, misdemeanors. But because they were used to cover up another crime, they get elevated to a felony. This just, again, speaks to the corruption connected to our current president. The jury was told how to assess the intent to defraud. That's the defendant's conscious purpose to deceive or to cheat. The judge explicitly told the jurors that any guilty verdict, for MAGA in the back, that any guilty verdict on each count must be unanimous among 12 jurors. There are a lot of people in this space that are running around saying the jury was told that you did not have to be unanimous. It is a bold-face fucking lie. You do not get to convict somebody criminally without a unanimous jury. Jurors were reminded how to evaluate the evidence, what is admissible, what inferences they may draw, and how to assess witness credibility, including testimony from people like Michael Cohen and others. Again, this is from NewYorkCourts.gov. You can see all the court records are in there. Jury instructions, what the evidence presented was, opening statements, the entire thing is categorized. That's where I got this information from. Jury also received standard limiting and evidentiary instructions, for example, not speculating about redacted material, how to handle prior statements, and that defendant's decisions not to testify may not be held against him. The judge explained that the motive why someone did something is not an element the prosecution must prove, although jurors could consider it in assessing their credibility. The jury was told essentially to ask for each of the 34 counts. Number one, was there a false or misleading business entry? Number two, did the defendant knowingly cause or approve it? Number three, was there intent to defraud? Number four, was the falsification done to hide or cover up another crime, making it a felony? And then number five, do all 12 jurors agree unanimously on guilt for that count? So that's what they were told to rule on. The evidence, statements, you couldn't hold the fact that Trump did not testify against him, etc. Judge Merchan gave standard and explicit New York jury criminal instructions. Unanimity on verdicts. Again, this is from the same NewYorkCourt.gov. Each of the 34 counts required a unanimous verdict. Did you hear that, MAGA? Each of the 34 counts required a unanimous verdict. All 12 jurors had to agree beyond a reasonable doubt that the prosecution proved every element of a count. If unanimity was not reached on a count, the jury was instructed not to return a guilty verdict on that count. The instruction was given more than once, including during final instructions. I even went so far as to say, okay, Indy, gotcha. I went so far as to say, I found the transcript for you from the jury instructions. We'll get to that in just a second. This is where the confusion comes from for people who weren't bothering to do the work. The confusion centers on other crime element of New York Penal Law 175.10, falsifying business records in the first degree. This is what the law requires. To elevate falsifying business records from a misdemeanor to a felony, the prosecution had to prove that 1, the records were falsified with intent to defraud, and 2, the falsification was done to conceal or commit another crime. That's what they had to prove. What the jury was told about unanimity. Jurors did not have to unanimously agree on the specific legal theory of the underlying crime, so long as each juror individually found beyond a reasonable doubt that some other crime was intended to be concealed. This is a standard rule in New York federal crime and applies in many cases: fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, etc. That instruction did not remove unanimity. It clarified that unanimity applies to elements, not to every subsidiary theory or evidentiary pathway. At no point were jurors told that they could disagree on guilt, that partial agreement was acceptable, or that non-unanimous verdicts were allowed. Did you catch that, MAGA? I see some chirping. Okay. What the jury still had to unanimously agree on for each count. You guys want me to keep going with this? Is this interesting to people? Necessary? I can move on to something else if you want, but it's really, really important that we don't forget about these things, because the fraudster in chief and those that support him want to deny this happened. They want to say that this was lawfare. Okay. For each count, all 12 jurors had to agree that a business record was falsified, that Trump caused or directed the falsification, that it was done knowingly, that it was done with intent to defraud, that it was done to conceal the crime, and that guilt was proven beyond reasonable doubt. If any juror disagreed on any of those elements, the verdict on that count could not be guilty. Okay? Unanimity was mandatory for every guilty verdict. Plain and simple. These are the juror instructions. Again, this is from the case, which is People versus DJT from the New York court's website. Quote, for you to find the defendant guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree, the people must prove the following three elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that on or about the date alleged in the indictment, the defendant made or caused a false entry in the business records of an enterprise. Second, that he did so with intent to defraud. And third, that this intent to defraud included an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. This language aligns with New York Penal Law 175.10, which Congress codifies for the felony of falsifying business records offense. So again, very clear instructions. Got to meet that on or about the date alleged, the defendant made or caused a false record, that he did so with the intent to defraud, and that his intent to defraud included an intent to commit another crime. That elevated it from the misdemeanor to the felony. Unanimity requirement. This is what was read to the jury. Quote, a verdict of guilty must be unanimous. MAGA. Unanimous means everybody agrees. Gotcha? That everybody agrees. Unanimous. A verdict of guilty must be unanimous with respect to each count. All 12 jurors must agree that the people have proved each element of that count beyond a reasonable doubt before you can find the defendant guilty of that count. Standard criminal jury instructions in New York. Now we move on to the underlying crime. This point is often misreported, so here's the key sentence as it appears in the jury instructions relating to whether jurors had to agree on which underlying crime was being concealed. Quote, you do not need to agree on the particular crime the defendant intended to commit, aid, or conceal, so long as you all agree that there was some other crime that he intended to commit, aid, or conceal. So it was read to the jury only after the judge explained what intent to commit another crime meant, and only in the context of the felony elevation under the New York Penal Law 175.10. That sentence has led to online misconceptions. It does not mean jurors can convict without unanimity or on guilt. It only means they do not all have to pick the same predicate offense to satisfy the intent to commit another crime We can also provide a photocopy if you want. That's information that's available. You can look at the jury instructions. You can go to NewYorkCourts.gov. All right. Your verdict, whether, again, general rule, your verdict, whether guilty or not guilty, must be unanimous. In order to reach a verdict, all 12 jurors must agree. Again, the instructions. For you to find the defendant guilty, that on or about the date alleged, the defendant made or caused a false entry into the business records or enterprise, the defendant did so with the intent to defraud, and that the defendant's intent to defraud included an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal another crime. These are the jury instructions. This came from the jury, came from the judge to the jury. Numerous cases where he reminded them, listen, whatever the predicate crime was, you don't have to agree on that as long as you all agree that he was using these crimes to cover up other crimes. If you all agree unanimously on that, then you must find him guilty. We don't know, because this is not part of the jury record, whether or not they came to unanimous agreement on some of the predicates, but it's irrelevant based on the case. There's another part here that I want to get to. The appellate court looked at New York Penal Law 175.10, falsifying business records in the first degree. That includes a business record was falsified, the defendant made or caused the falsification, the defendant acted with intent to defraud, and that the intent included intent to commit, aid, or conceal another crime. Another crime is part of one element. It is in it of itself separately charged, and it's not enumerated in the statute. The entire point of this is like, what was their defense going to be to the appellate, which is why they lost their appeal. So let's go a little bit deeper into this. Hang on one second. By the way, there are numerous cases. Richardson versus the U.S., Shad versus Arizona, Ramos versus Louisiana, Apprende line of cases, Apprende versus Elaine. All right, and then let me get to this. This is what he was convicted of. Falsifying business records in the first degree, New York Penal Law 175.10. Each count corresponded to a specific business record. Let's see. Do I have this? Yes, 11 invoices, 12 checks, and 11 journal entries. Business records were falsified. The Trump Organization records related to payments. Trump caused or directed the falsification. He didn't have to physically enter them himself. He acted with intent to defraud. The falsifications were done to conceal or commit another crime. He was then convicted of falsifying business records to hide another crime. 34 separate counts, 11 invoices, 12 checks, 11 ledger entries. Now, this is the thing that people have refused to listen to. I was curious about this myself, so I did a little bit of research. Approximately, let's see, since about 2015, New York State courts have arraigned roughly 9,000 felony charges under the same law, 175.10. 9,474 such cases have been arraigned since 2015. Insurance fraud, tax fraud, workers' compensation fraud, false business filings across the entire New York legal ecosphere. 9,000 instances of people being charged in the same way. Misdemeanor crimes used in furtherance of another crime elevates it to a felony. The predicate crimes in this case, you're going to be asked about this. What were the predicate crimes? And people on the right say, people on the left don't even know. So here you go. The predicate crimes. Again, the jury instructions are, you do not have to agree on which of these predicate crimes he committed. You just have to agree that he used the falsification of business records to cover up other crimes. And you must be unanimous on that. All right? Violation of New York election law. 17-152, conspiracy to promote or prevent an election by unlawful means. This was the primary predicate theory. Prosecutors argued that the hush money scheme was designed to unlawfully influence the 2016 election by suppressing negative information, using falsified records to hide that effort, and this is a state crime, not a federal crime. This predicate alone is legally sufficient to support all 34 felonies. Falsification of business records. New York Penal Law 175.05. The misdemeanor version of the same offense. Prosecutors argued that the felony falsifications were also intended to conceal ongoing misdemeanor falsification. It's a common bootstrapping structure in New York fraud cases. Courts routinely allow a misdemeanor offense to serve as the concealed crime. This theory reinforces intent and continuity of concealment. Tax violations. False characterizations of payments for tax purposes. The reimbursement payments were labeled as legal expenses. Prosecutors argued that this was a mischaracterization, created improper deductions, concealed taxable income issues. This theory was narrower, but still valid under New York law. I don't know how else to explain it to our friends on the right. Okay? I really don't. There's a pattern, though. Okay? There's a pattern. There's a pattern about lawfare. There's a pattern about weaponization of the government. Again, 9,000 examples of people being charged with the exact same crimes. 9,000. Under New York Penal Law 175.10. You can't commit a crime to cover up another crime and expect to get away with it. It's indicative of the kind of person that's behind the Oval desk, behind the Resolute desk right now. He cheated the system. He tried to cover it up. He didn't want you guys to know that he had an affair prior to the election. Keep in mind, this guy cheated on his first wife with his second wife, cheated on his second wife with his third wife, cheated on his third wife with a corn star and a Sports Illustrated model, etc., 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 etc. This guy. So I wish I could help you understand how corrupt he is. I've done my best. I've done my best. This goes back to the premise of our show today, how deep the corruption goes and how unwilling his supporters are to take a step back and look at it. I always look at this as what can we do about it, right? There is no official ethics laws that govern the Supreme Court. I want that. I want the Supreme Court. I want everybody. I would clean house on the Supreme Court right now and start from scratch. 15-year term limits. Reappropriate 13 congressional districts, or I should say 13 appellate divisions. There should be 13 justices. 15 years tops to serve. I want ethics investigations. I want insider trading banned. I want a stock trading ban that everybody must sign. I want a law that says you cannot be on the ballot for president if you do not release your tax returns. Period. Money follows money, friends. It follows money. Wherever there are rich people, you're going to find more rich people. That's just how it works, right? And our friends on the right truly believe they're going to get invited. You're not. You're not going to get invited to the party. You're not going to go to the club. You're not going to get a seat on Air Force One. It's not going to happen. So let's just, again, let's get inside the minds of MAGA for just a minute. I want to go back a little bit and talk about Todd Blanche. So Todd Blanche is, the deputy AG. And he's been the one that's been anointed to kind of address the lack of, the violation of the law, day 46 of not releasing the entire Jeffrey files. Pam Bondi is nowhere to be seen. She's instead going to Minneapolis trying to charge people with domestic terrorism when it doesn't even exist. So this is what Todd Blanche on the circuit had to say about protesters and about undocumented people in our country.
I should say, to clarify, the lawyer for Liam Ramos and his father say they were following the legal process for asylum.
I mean, I don't know what that means. They were following legal process. So
they applied for asylum.
And yes, the judge disagreed with us.
What?
Excuse me?
They applied for asylum and they were going through the legal process.
Well, so that's not true.
Okay. So the judge actually ruled that, yes, in fact, they are going through the legal process to get their asylum claim heard. And the judge said, yeah, we know. And then Todd Blanche, the deputy AG, says, that's not true? Okay. Got it. Just want to make sure I heard that properly. And this is, I found the sound from Kristi Noem. I have to play this for you guys because this is embarrassing for her. She is in hot water, needless to say. So she's back. She showed up again. She came out of her I don't know, chamber, and she goes back on Fox News, a safe space, and she had to say this.
We have secured the border. We've driven down the murder rates and the crime rates to historic lows in this country, saved hundreds of millions of lives by interdicting drugs across the country and in our maritime borders. We've seen the left violently react, perpetuate violence and mob rule in our cities in retaliation for President Trump enforcing the law. And we're going to continue on a tactical plan to confront this violence that they're bringing to make sure we still continue to do the right thing. We're going to enforce the law, focus on the successes that we've had for the American people and bringing public safety to them. And we're going to go into this next year delivering even more results.
If somebody caught that, see if you guys can catch it. Listen to this again, and I'll pause it at the moment.
We have secured the border. We've driven down the murder rates and the crime rates to historic lows in this country, saved hundreds of millions of lives.
What? What? Hundreds of millions of lives? What? Huh? Okay.
By interdicting drugs across the country and in our maritime borders. We've seen the left violently react, perpetuate violence and mob rule in our cities.
Gotcha. So I'm not a gambler. Like I play cards because I don't look at that as gambling. But if I were a betting man, I would say she either resigns, gets fired, or is impeached within the next month before March 1st. Guess we'll see. Republican Councilman Dan Halloran arrested for possession of over 1,000 child sexual abuse videos, including of prepubescent girls. Calls are always coming from inside the house, aren't they? 48 Texans charged in nationwide $14.6 billion healthcare fraud takedown. Where is Nick Shirley? Why is ICE not rummaging around Texas? 48 Texans charged in nationwide $14.6 billion healthcare fraud takedown. Biggest in our nation's history. Where is Nick Shirley? Where? This is, by the way, this is reported by a Fox affiliate. Where is the Department of Justice? Why are they not there investigating that? I mean, I think that's their primary job now, isn't it? Isn't ICE out there investigating fraud? Okay. Just making sure. Just want to make sure I understood that correctly. See what else I have here. Kelly Loeffler. I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit because there's a few things I want to kind of close with, but Kelly Loeffler, who was a former Georgia senator, she is now the Secretary of the Small Business Administration. I'm not sure if it's a secretary position, could be, but she's fucking delusional as well. She's completely fucking delusional. So here you go. Check this out. Check out this claim. This is fucking wild.
You watch the head of the Small Business Administration touting trillions in foreign investments, Kelly Loeffler, during today's cabinet meeting, and I want to share this with you.
The $18 trillion you brought in is creating an economic boom like none we've ever seen before. We are going to have 7% GDP growth. GDP now is probably underestimating where it is.
John, if we had $18 trillion of foreign investment flowing in, we'd have 60% GDP growth.
Exactly.
How does any person who's financially literate, any person in the business world, in the investment world, watch this and say, gosh darn it, Kelly Loeffler's telling the truth? We watch the head of the Small Business Administration.
She's right. This is the glazing. They sit around the table, right, with their bloodletting ceremonies and their chants. Oh, Donald, $18 trillion. Do you understand what we try to tell you? I mean, again, I don't like to come up here every day and just remind folks on the other side about how you're just woefully misinformed on things. But do you get it? We brought in $18 trillion this year. We'd have a 60% fucking GDP. Do you understand? Do you understand why it's so easy for us to mock you? Do you get it? Do you understand? Real quick, wanted to thank a few people. I think I got Pedro. Cookie, thank you. Appreciate you. Also, Linda, thank you so much. Thanks for the education. You're welcome, Linda. Appreciate you. Let me adjust this. We're almost at 1 million likes, guys. Again, we're on our backup, so that'd be great if we can bang that out today. Got 45 minutes. Need 170,000 likes to get us to 1 million. Okay. Couple other things here. Harry did some interesting reporting on this, and I think it's necessary because, again, this relates to the financial crimes. He's been doing a little bit of work looking into the Jeffrey files, as you know, we are as well. But there's talk on the files about how deep the financial crimes go in covering up these crimes. So I'll just play this sound for you because I think he covers it.
News, emails from Jeffrey Epstein have just been discovered in the files where he's talking about Donald Trump's tax returns and says he won't release them because they are his Achilles heel. This is in 2015 where Epstein wrote an email to someone named Peggy Siegel and he said, "1 more week till birthday. Where are you? I hope David Koch got your message. Donald Trump's financial disclosure is his Achilles heel." Here's another one in 2016 where Epstein was writing to Peter Thiel where he said, "Donald's New York supporters concerned. We can talk if you like. He cannot release his tax returns. So what are his options?" So the question I think we're all asking is, what did Jeffrey Epstein know about Donald Trump's financials? Why did he say he can't release his tax returns? I mean, there have been some accusations of Donald Trump committing financial crime that Epstein was part of, but there's never been an investigation on that. What did he mean in these emails? And as you all know, Donald Trump completely refused to release any of his tax returns back in 2016. It took a court order for him to eventually release some of them, not all of them. So what are in those tax returns from the time that he was hanging around with Epstein?
And then don't forget, because there was this whistleblower that sent some information publicly, the court had to step in and say, you got to release some of these. He's now suing the Treasury for $10 million. But again, nothing to see here. Totally fine. Completely above board. Let me see. I have this here. One of the states that I want, yes.
Hey now.
Anyway, one of the states that I want us to keep an eye on as we are marching towards the midterms is North Carolina. Tom Tillis, he's been a pretty straight shooter for the most part. I wouldn't call him MAGA. He's voted with the president a lot, but he's been pretty aggressive. He's decided he's no longer going to run. As you know, Roy Cooper, former governor, leading in a lot of the polls. Tom Tillis has been under the president's watch. Been called out by numerous people, and of course, anytime anybody says anything bad about Daddy, then you get taken out back and have a scolding. So this is Tom Tillis realizing exactly what we just discussed. Here you go.
I think for the first time in my life, I may actually be a rhino.
Well, there's a headline.
The Republican Party has drifted so far away from limited government, free markets, and federalism, which are the bedrock of any conservative thinker. I'm beginning to sort this out. I know that we're going through a populist phase. I expect it to settle down, but Republicans are at their best when we are talking about free markets, free trade, federalism. limited government, and we're drifting from that, and we drift from that. We're no different than the Democrats, and that lack of differentiation causes us to lose elections.
Can you put the toothpaste back in the tube, though? Because the President Trump has been such a disruptor to this party.
Yeah, you can. Look, I mean, I want the president to be successful. I'm a business person. I work on a transaction basis. I could sit down with him and come up with things that I'd love to support him on. I think that's the mistake that some people have made here. They just get so frustrated that maybe they realize they weren't Republicans. So then they become backbenchers or constantly criticizing. Again, okay. I support the majority of what this administration is trying to do. Okay. They have highly competent people in roles, and I'm glad that they're there.
I'm sorry, what? What was that? Who are the highly competent people? Like, objectively speaking, Marco Rubio is a competent individual, right? He's competent. He's probably the only one. But everybody else, competent? Pete Hegseth is competent. Kash Patel is competent. Pam Bondi is competent. Kristi Noem is competent. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is competent. Okay.
But elections are all around the margins, and we are way out of the margins of, I think, proper execution in things that are going to influence this election if we don't get our collective stuff together in the coming 30, 60, 90 days. If we're still in this sort of narrative and chaos in June, then not only do I think we risk losing the House, but I do believe that the U.S. Senate could be in play, and I'm doing everything I can to prevent that.
Ooh. That's why I wanted to play that clip for you. People have access to polling that a lot of us don't. You have internal polling that a lot of folks do that doesn't always go public. I really think the Senate is in play. I really, really do. I really, really do. I think Iowa's in play because I think Iowans understand that they're being lied to. And I think they're finally coming around to that claim. Now, I know that there was this report from a pollster in the Des Moines Register last election cycle about how Iowa could have been in play for Kamala Harris to win. She obviously got some information from somewhere. So are you starting to see the tide turning? If you look at these congressional races, if you look at these down ballot races, if you look at these special elections, there's a trend there. So if I was to be put on the spot, and I'm not got a long way to go, but these are the states that I really think are in play. Okay. North Carolina, it was trending purple anyway, but Tom Tillis is retiring. Roy Cooper, former governor, really, really popular. Really, really popular. I think that state's in play. I think Maine is in play. I think Graham Plattner. I'm asking people on the left to kind of look past some of the shit. If we're talking about purity tests, this is what's going to get us in trouble. Okay? Yes, he had a bad tattoo. Yes, I didn't like his answer. He said he's since covered it. He's been consistent with the things that he has said. I wish people could look past that shit. Again, as we sit here, the fucking purity test, right? I'm hoping people can really look at his candidacy more than just this one thing that he did, okay? I'm asking that. I think that's a winnable state. I really, really do. I think Ohio, I think Sherrod Brown is incredibly popular in that state. Incredibly popular. Now, he doesn't have the power of the incumbency anymore, but he is running again. I think that's a state that's potentially in play. I'm going to go out on a limb and talk about Texas, only because of the fact that we know how unpopular Ted Cruz is. He continues to sneak by. I think at this point, I think it's likely that James Tallarico is going to be the candidate. I really think so. Their debate was great. It was good to see adults discussing politics for a change and not going after each other. I think either way, either candidate will lend their support or will encourage their voters, their supporters, to get behind the other candidate. I think, let's see, Maine, Ohio, North Carolina, Iowa is a wild card. And I think Florida may be one of those states that nobody sees on the radar. We'll see. We'll see. So the Senate map could be very, very interesting. This is my expectation if we were to pull on that thread a little bit, right? I hate the filibuster. I can't stand it. I absolutely despise it. I've never liked it. I've never liked it. And I understand it has a purpose. I understand it supports the minority vote, but if you get power, then the majority should have control. So if that happens and Senate Democrats do come out on top, I absolutely do not want Chuck Schumer as the majority leader anymore. I absolutely do not want that. Don't want it. Okay? With that being said, I want the filibuster to be torn up so that we can expand the court, so that we can make DC a state, so that we can use the same tools, some of the same tools that the current administration has used, and you govern with a fucking sledgehammer. And that's what I want, unapologetically. If things get challenged, let them challenge it in court, just like this administration. Use the tools and the power you have for good. For good. Blow up the entire fucking system. If you got to use executive orders, then do it. Whatever it might be. If you want to create legislation about what's required to impeach, then you consider submitting a constitutional amendment or rules regarding the amount of people in the Senate that need to vote to remove from office. Exactly, Weber. I'm so fucking done playing nice. I'm kind, but I ain't nice. See what I did there, Sam? Here's the problem with that, though. There has to be appetite from the moderates, which is why we need to elect people like a Plattner, like a Roy Cooper. Those kinds of people understand that we cannot play nice anymore. Can't do it. No more games. No more games. Thank you. I really, really, really want people on the left to start to evaluate their candidates like they would evaluate themselves. I've said this before. I agree, Kipper. I eat Tide Pods? Cool. Do I? That's nice. Thanks. Appreciate you. Kiss, kiss. If we are going to encourage more people to vote, more people to get involved in elections, then we have to accept the fact that we're not perfect. Hey, come here. Sir. Come here. Come here. Hello. Thank you. If we are going to have to, if we want a change in our body politic, then we have to start electing regular people. And we all have our faults. We all have our things. We all have our things in the past that we may not be proud of. But don't we all want to be appreciated if we're making change? Right? Don't we all want to be in a position where we can say, you know what? I made some mistakes in my past. I'm not asking people to forgive me. I just want to show people that I've changed. Isn't that what we want? So if we can't look past a decision that somebody made 20 years ago, and I get it. I understand you don't want Yahtzee symbolism. I totally get it. I understand that. But we have to be able to think differently. The cautionary tale is this. If we don't, we risk what's happening to happen again. 77 million people decided that didn't really matter what Donald Trump has done in his life, didn't matter what he did last week, I'm still going to vote for him, and we can't get past ourselves from a decision that somebody might have made 20 years ago? I mean, are we that precious? Is that our own fucking purity test? When I was interviewing part of the interview panel for can't pronounce Matt's last name, but he's a candidate running against Mike Johnson in Louisiana. I talked to him last night, and I asked him a very pointed question. I said, if you're the nominee, if you are the nominee from the Democrats, and you are debating Mike Johnson to determine who's going to represent your district, I said to him flat out, I said, would you stand there on the debate stage and call out Mike Johnson and call him a liar and a hypocrite to his face? And, you know, I didn't really like Matt's answer. Wasn't assertive enough. That's the bar. That's the fucking bar. That's what we want. We want people who are going to fight. We want people who are going to call balls and strikes. We want people to point it out. I want F-bombs dropped. I want fucking crazy shit. I want people being told that you're a fucking liar. Hey, Mike, instead of spending time monitoring your son's corn, why the fuck aren't you doing anything about healthcare? Hey, Mike, why did it take Donald Trump to give you permission to vote in favor of releasing the Epstein files? Couldn't you grow a set yourself, you pathetic fuck? Isn't that what we want? Don't we want people that are going to fight? Why is it that I can sit here every day and call balls and strikes? Don't we want people that are running for office to do the same? I'm so tired of decorum. I'm tired of it. I'm fucking done. I don't want nice. I don't. I want people to be called out on blast. And I want them, exactly, Jen, just be fucking real. If you're angry about Mike Johnson lying, then call him a fucking liar. You lied about this. You lied about that. You lied about all of it. I would like you to tell your constituents in here that you think people are ripping off the ACA. Meanwhile, this district, Mike, you pathetic little troll, is one of the highest participation rates the ACA we have in our country. And what are you doing for them? You're voting to take away their benefits because you lied to them. I'm done playing fucking nice. I'm done. If you want to fly me in and I'll be your stand-in for your debate, sign me the fuck up, because I will pull no punches. I can promise you that. I'm kind. I'm not nice. Bad echo? It's probably Kipper. Sorry. Is there an echo still? Really? Oh. Anyway, that's what I got for you today, friends. Look, I want to say this. The reason that I spend time kind of, connecting the dots on the financial crimes is because if we're not doing something about it again, it's going to happen again. Right? If we're not willing to do something, whether it be run for office or support candidates or volunteer to phone bank, to do whatever, then we're part of the problem. Okay? The Do Something tour is kind of taking on a life of its own. So let me just take a couple minutes to tell you about what it is that we're doing. I don't have all the details, more to come this week. Do Something started with me feeling like there's always something that we can do. What can we do? Can we volunteer in our communities? Sure. Is there a way that you can help your neighbor? Sure. Is there something that you can do tomorrow to make somebody's life better? Yes. That's how Do Something started. And we've had so many people come to us and say, hey, this is what I did. These are the things that I've done. These are the Do Something things that I've done, which are incredibly inspiring. The one that I really, really like, Dano made this suggestion. If you're leaving the house in the morning, just make an extra sandwich in case you run across somebody who could use it. Put extra socks and menstrual products in the trunk of your car, and if you drive by a house or shelter, walk in and say, I'd like to donate these. If you want to donate to a food bank, do me a solid, because I work with a lot of food banks in my day job. Call them in advance because they might be over the top on certain items, but they might need others. Bring those in. Could you do something as simple as, contacting your local school, whether you have kids in school or not, and just say, hey, do you ever need any help in kindergarten or the preschool programs? Or could you volunteer to coach? All those little things. That's all part of the Do Something spirit. That's up to all of you, right? What we're doing in addition to that is I'm going on the road, likely to start in April, on or around April, and I want to have conversations with people. I want to be able to sit down with everyday Americans, and no matter what your walk of life is, no matter where you live, you're in Appalachia, you're in the Ozarks, you're in northern New England, you're in the Rust Belt, you're in the Plains, you're in the Southeast, it doesn't really matter where you are, because there's so many people like us, right, who have maybe checked out on democracy. That's what the Do Something tour is about. It's literally whether I'm going to be in an RV or I'm going to be in a van, we're going to be talking about transportation, we're going to be talking about all these logistical things. I want to be able to use my privilege to have conversations with people to remind them what is important. Okay? About what is important. what it is that we're fighting for. There are millions of people in our country that feel left behind by government, and rightly so. Many of us do, whether we're involved or not. We've made a decision to vote. They have made a decision to not. Okay? So my conversation is going to be just that. Again, whether it be in a bar, in a diner, in a record store. Do they even have those anymore? Sure. In a record store, in a motorcycle garage, at a VFW, at a American Legion Hall, at a pig roast, at a backyard barbecue. I don't care. I don't care. There is too much at stake, too much to lose. And the momentum right now, it's almost palatable. You can feel it, right? You can feel the momentum. You can feel, bingo, exactly. Bingo, exactly. Whatever that might be. I'm not shy. One thing I am not is shy. I will inject myself in a conversation wherever I can. I'll be kind. I won't be nice. If you want to join us, there's many ways that you can get involved. We will be asking this community for help. It's going to be financial help. It's going to be logistical help. It's going to be coordination help. It might even be help with some design elements, all kinds of things. We have a small team that we formed to do it, but we're going to be asking for your help. More details to come on that. So you can follow us on Instagram, DoSomethingTour.com or DoSomethingTour. You'll find us there. You'll find resources. We're getting there. It's going to happen. I'm going to need your help, and I want you to do something too. Thank you guys for joining us today. I know a lot to cover. I'm tired. This was a lot of number crunching. I want to just thank everybody for your involvement, and thank you for following us over here. I don't think we'll make it to back to the main account until Friday, most likely, but I need all of you. I need all of you. What's going on here? I need all of you guys to always keep in mind that there's always something that we can do. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. It's just got to be something, okay? Who are we rating, friends? Who are we rating? Sorry, inside joke. Let's see, is Ash live or Olive or RTP? It might be a little bit early for them, but RTP's live? Is he out there live? Yeah, go rate Jay. Tell him we said hi. Somebody else is doing the work. Is Sinjay live? We can go rate our Danish friend. Let's go rate Sinjay. Tell her we said hello. I love you, friends. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and to Twitch. Don't forget, through this Friday, any item purchased in the merch store as part of the Minneapolis connection, you'll see it in there. All proceeds from those particular items will go to support canmn.org. And I think we're at like $150 that we've raised so far. We will continue to do that at the end of this week. So thank you, friends. Again, go raid Sinjay. Tell her we said hi. I love you all. Mods, you guys are the best. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.